All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll kick off here. We have some folks in the gallery. We're grabbing chairs, so there may be a bit of a delay. Thank you for a full gallery. It's always great to see that. Um, so we'll start off here with the recognition that we're conducting our business primarily on the territories of the Hoopachisit and Shoshones First Nations. Recognize, affirm, and appreciate that fact. That being said, this is a meeting conducted in a hybrid format, so we do have folks who are coming in live from other traditional territories as well. Feel free to acknowledge them if you want. But we'll start off with some introductions and then we'll go into the rest of the meeting. So we'll start by going counterclockwise. Do you want to start, Heather? Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services.
Good afternoon, Debbie Haggard, Councillor for the City of Port Alberni and Vice Chair of the Alberni-Clicquot Regional District Board of Directors.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cindy Solda, City of Port Alberni City Council, alternate for Mayor Minion.
Good afternoon, Aklama Penikote. I am the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake.
Good afternoon, and I'm Mike Sparrow, Electoral Area Director for Cherry Creek.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Roth, the Director for Beaver Creek. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Les Toth. I'm the alternate director for the Beaufort.
Hello, I'm Kylie Pettifer. I'm the Community Project and Engagement Manager.
And good afternoon, Alex Dyer, General Manager of Planning and Development.
Good afternoon, Shane Corn, Acting Chief Financial Officer.
All right, and then we'll head online. Dr. Siga.
Beta Siga, Director for Area C Long Beach.
Dr. Steer.
Yes, good afternoon. Councillor Tom Steer, Appointed Director, District of Tofino, coming to you from the unceded territory, the Tloquit First Nation.
Thank you. And Dr. Beckett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bob Beckett, representing Banfield Area.
Thank you. And Dr. Johnson.
Afternoon, Kirsten Johnson, representing Toquat Nation.
Great. Dr. McEwen.
Good afternoon, Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet, coming to you from the traditional territory of the Ucluelet.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Coots, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ufama Mariah Coots, Hishla Hushla Hochakasat. I'm the representative for the Hochakasa Tribe Government. Happy to be here.
Great, thank you. And Oklahoma Sayachat, my name is John Jack. I'm the Chief Counselor for Wyatt, the Director for Wyatt, and the Chairperson. So we are conducting our business today in a hybrid format, which means that we are live broadcasting on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, which is also embedded on our website. So you can get there from there. If you had registered beforehand, you'd be able to attend online as well, directly in the Zoom broadcast as well. And so there's a way to put up your hand and ask questions when we get to public comment or question period and so on and so forth. So with that in mind, we'll move into the agenda. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention, we do have an email address that allows for people to, no, we don't? We don't anymore? Okay, that's easy. All right, that's why it's not on the agenda. Okay, so that brings us to the approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to move the agenda as presented? Thank you, Director Solda, seconded by Director Cote. Any comments? Do we have any items to add to the agenda? Any late items? No?
No late items.
Thank you. Okay, so with that in mind, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. That brings us to the next item, declarations. Does anyone have any declarations of conflict of interest, perceived conflict of interest, or gifts exceeding a certain amount of money? I think it's $200, 250, 250. Any further? Does anyone have any time constraints? Dr. Roth, go ahead.
Yeah, I need to leave by 4:40.
4:40. Take a look at the agenda if there's anything you want to get to and let me know. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the next one. We don't have any invited presentations, but we do have a delegation. So I'd like to invite Kylie Pettifer, the Community Project and Engagement Manager, to head to the podium now. Thank you and welcome. Before we begin, because I know it will take more than 10 minutes, I would like to call for a motion to allow for the presentation to be more than 10 minutes. Thank you, Director Roth, Director Cote. All those in favor? All opposed? A motion carried. Thank you. All right, thank you and welcome. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. My name is Kylie Pettifer. I'm the Community Project and Engagement Manager. I've had the pleasure of working alongside the planning team and community to bring together the Sprout Lake and Area Plan today, which is brought to you for first reading. Before I dive in, I would really once again love to thank everyone that has been part of this process over the last year and a half, from the folks that have come out to our public events or shared their thoughts online, the staff at other bodies that have given us their time, including our neighbors at the nations, and the detail internally that has been given to this plan. So I'm incredibly grateful for all of the insights everyone has provided, and we hope that folks are able to see where their input has really been reflected in this plan. Excuse me, and this computer. There we go. Alrighty, so within the package shared with you today is the plan itself, as well as several mapping schedules related to the area. So Sprout Lake and Area Official Community Plan area encompasses roughly 35% of electoral area D. As you can see on the map here, it encompasses the two lakes, the agricultural areas around them, the airport, and does neighbor Seychelles, Hoopachesset, the city of Port Alberni, as well as electoral areas B and E. You will also notice within the mapping that we have expanded our mapping to provide more focus around some of the areas within the land use maps and as well as the development permit areas. And so this was done to ensure that the maps can be well read and understood by community. And these maps form schedules A to N within your package. We also have a full set of the maps with us in larger form at the back here today, should anyone wish to give them a closer look. So what is an official community plan? An official community plan is a statement of the objectives and policies that guide decision-making on planning and land use management and establishes a community vision over short and long-term period, addressing topics like housing, land use, and the environment. And so these topics help to provide direction to the board on how community feels on certain topics, as well as provide focus on areas where community would like to see grant funding applications. And so the official community plan really is a living document. It changes as updates occur. So it's important to think about it from within that lens. So the Sprout Lake and Area OCP is being updated now because it has influenced local land use for over a decade. So since its adoption in 2014. Bringing you the OCP today does not end the public input process. In fact, it begins the public input process in a formal way. So this is an opportunity to bring you all of the process and really check in with the document that we've put together so that we can get your formal direction on next steps. Should the bylaw be read for the first time today, the plan would then be to go back out to the public for review ahead of any public hearing, and staff would continue to work with folks to address any comments or concerns that arise. So how was this OCP created? Over the past year and a half, since January of 2025, staff have been working with community to build out the plan. And this version that is with you today comes after many conversations with community around what is important to consider. So it aims to reflect the visions of all community members that have made their voices heard through our engagement process. So the community engagement process has been quite extensive on this plan. And the work we have done over winter 2025 and spring 2026 is detailed in the Phase 4 engagement plan report that should be within your board package. As you can see within that, planning staff have engaged with community groups, nonprofits, businesses, committees, First Nations, the community at large, really to build out the framework and content of the plan. And this has included meetings with groups along with emails and phone calls with residents throughout the process. So in-person engagement has consisted of workshops, pop-ups, a community barbecue, open houses, community meetings with residents of Central Lake Road and Great Central Lake, as well In total, the in-person events held brought out 313 people to engage with us. We also reached out to 22 community groups in the area for feedback while the draft was being created and had virtual and in-person meetings with 9 of them. Conversations with local groups like the Sprout Lake Woodland Society, the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association, the Alberni Valley Food Security Society, and others, in addition to 5 conversations with industry agencies and provincial officials. As well, we've been in touch with the nations throughout and have engaged as directed by attending a Hupechasik Council meeting and holding a Seisha community event. In terms of online activities, we have had an online handbook, we've had 2 surveys, a feedback questionnaire on the draft OCP when it went out. We also followed up that engagement period with an FAQ addressing the common questions that we have heard, as well as responding to questions that have come in via our email and our Let's Connect page. In total, we've received 183 online submissions, and that's not including any email correspondence and comments through that Let's Connect page. Additionally, ahead of every step, the project has been advertised to community. So the project has been shared on ACRD's social media, through the newspaper, the radio, through community sandwich boards, through flyers and mail outs directly to folks' homes. Through the Let's Connect, we were also featured in a story on The Scoop, and emails to many groups that we spoke with. So at the open house, we asked folks how they had heard about the plan to make sure that we were meeting and in line with what they had hoped. And most answered that they had heard about it through multiple mediums, with the sandwich boards and social media being the most common responses. The Sprout Lake Advisory Planning Commission has also been an incredibly integral part of the OCP process. So we've met 6 times since January of 2025, and they have advised on engagement plans, encouraged community involvement, and provided a community lens on topics throughout the drafting process. The draft OCP was initially seen by the Sprout Lake Advisory Planning Commission on April 7th. Feedback from that was then gathered and made available in full to both the APC and the public on April 27th. And then the draft document was available and advertised from April 27th until May 24th. On May 4th, there was a public event to share the details of the draft and answer any questions. And a few days after the feedback period had ended, the planning team released an FAQ, which is also part of your agenda package today. And that was really to help address questions and comments that we heard throughout the process. So we have continued making edits as comments have come in over the past week, including the letter from Sprout Lake Property Owners Association, which I believe is also included in your agenda package today. And since the public release, the OCP team has engaged with folks over the phone, in email, in meetings, and we've made changes throughout the entirety of the month as it progressed to create the version that you have before you today. We have also reached out to government agencies for initial referral comments and have sought legal advice to ensure the plan adequately meets the needs of the legislation, as well as remaining focused on what the district can do. It's important to remember that the OCP is intended to be a high-level policy document. And so while we have made every effort to include what we have heard within this process, there may have been pieces where there was no consensus or where feedback was too specific for those policies to appear in such a high-level bylaw. In those cases, we have made note of where other bylaw updates would make sense, such as updates to the zoning bylaw, revisions to the short-term rental policy, or the creation of a floodplain bylaw, and where those would provide more guidance in the process. So one of the big questions we've been getting is sort of around the jurisdiction of the plan. So I think it's important to note what the plan's limitations are. So the plan has no authority over First Nation reserve land and has very limited authority over federal or provincial crown lands, as well as limited authority over forestry activities conducted on privately owned managed forest lands. Additionally, all the roads within the ACRD are managed by the province, and the plan has limited authority over the surface bed and activities conducted on the lakes, and these fall under provincial, federal, or private forestry jurisdiction, sort of depending on the question. So some things are a matter of there's just a lot of us working together on a topic. And these are all cases where the plan has used the language of partnership to try to solve and highlight the issues and opportunities that were brought forward during our engagement processes. So what is in this OCP? So from all of the data gathered during that community engagement, the community vision statements, key themes, goals, objectives, and policies that make up the OCP were developed. Further analysis and input from the Sprout Lake Advisory Planning Commission was then used to draw out these 8 key themes that become the 8 core policy areas within your document. So these 8 key themes are environment, agricultural and food security, growth management, housing and affordability, reconciliation, emergency management, employment and economy, and parks and recreation. So within these sections, we have laid out policies to support the goals and objectives that community had. There are pieces of policy that remain unchanged from the current OCP, such as conservation areas to protect the fish stock. There are also policies included where grant funding would be needed to accomplish community goals. And there are areas of policy that community members indicated were important, such as the protection of water resources. So the complete policy listing can be found within section 5 of the plan. Alongside these core policies, the plan contains the land use designations for the area. So every area within the plan has a designation that outlines the permitted uses. So this OCP has 16 land use types, and a description of all of those land use designations can be found within section 4 of your plan. There hasn't been a lot of change to the land use designations in Sprout Lake and area. There's been some clarity provided through the civic land use to areas of community focus, such as the Sprout Lake Community Hall, and adjustments to the lands known as the Bomber Base. As well, Central Lake has been given its own land use designation as a result of discussions with community. The development permit areas are also included within the plan. So development permit areas place specific rules around property development, often requiring reports from a qualified professional. So the exemptions are listed within the document to help outline more specifically when those development permits might not be needed. There are 3 development permit areas within Sprout Lake and area. There is the environmental protection area, the natural hazard protection area, as well as the forming character. So DPA 1 really establishes those guidelines for the protection of the natural environment. So it's looking at its ecosystems, biological diversity, and things required like riparian areas along streams, consideration of landscaping conditions, as well as dock construction guidelines. DPA 2 is really establishing guidelines to protect development from hazardous conditions like tsunami, earthquake, flooding, and steep slope erosion. And DPA 3 is looking to protect the form and character of development along the highway corridor where commercial and industrial lots are centered. So what else is in this OCP? I know it's a long document, but there are many important topics covered within it. So it does contain an introductory section. This is really to help folks understand what is in the document, what is going on throughout. It includes legislative requirements of the plan, definitions, a bit of background information about the work done to create it. This plan also includes a history section. So that was built with support from the Sprout Lake Advisory Planning Commission, from community members, as well as the Alberni Valley Historical Society. It was created in response to community commentary, particularly about how much they loved the 2005 OCP and its inclusion within it, and really felt like it told the story of Sprout Lake. So we made sure that we wanted to recognize sort of that long-term community in the area and the history of the place itself. So that is within the beginning section as well. On the other side, at the end, it also contains 2 appendices. These are outlining the background research used to support the plan, as well as a timeline for the recommendations within the plan. So there are many legislative requirements for what must be included in the plan. This includes the 20-year housing needs and provisions to address them, GHG emission reduction targets, policies and maps pertaining to several different land uses. And these appendices contain some of the required content under legislation, and thus they've been included in the main package today, just to sort of cover our bases on that front. Anything falling outside the jurisdiction of the local government, things like roads, archaeology, water, you can only speak them within broad objectives. And so these are the areas where we have used advocacy and partnership as language to address them. And so this version presented to the board today represents the culmination of a year and a half of conversation with community. However, it does not represent the end of public input by any means. In bringing the OCP to you today, the board has its first chance to see what we've heard from community and provide further direction. At which point, the public input period would begin again. And if directed, the revised plan will go to community for further review ahead of a public hearing. If the board receives this OCP for first reading, there are 3 things that must follow. It must be considered in relation to the financial plan and the waste management plan. It must be referred to the Agricultural Land Commission for comment. And we must hold a public hearing up until which the public is able to provide input. So we are currently holding a date for that of July 7th, should we be asked to move forward today. As a reminder, should first reading move forward, there are still many interaction points remaining. So after this, we would move to a formal bylaw referral process. We would begin the public hearing process, undertake second and third reading with any adjustments that are coming out of that process well before we move to adoption. And so the board also has the option to pause at any of those steps if they wish to. I would just like to end by reminding folks that the official community plan does represent a living document. The board has the ability to edit the plan as new matters come to light in the years ahead. And so I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share this work that our team has been working on and that we're really proud of and that we've worked on with community. And so we are happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Director Cote, please go ahead.
Just through the chair to staff, thank you. And this is a year and a half's worth of work. I've seen it be built by staff and consultation with the community at many different levels of engagement. Last night, I read through the whole package again and I'm quite pleased with what's been captured from the community. I think it's a fair evaluation of what was identified by staff and brought forward by the community. So looking forward to moving this forward. But I do know that there's a number of people here today, and I have received many emails asking to put a pause on. But I don't really have a lot of reason that I could see within the document myself. So I'm looking forward to the comments from the public to find out what it is that they're really not happy with. But I think that you've really addressed a lot of things. There's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding of what the province mandates us to have to do to put into an OCP. So looking forward to further consultation here today. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you for that. Any further comments from the board? Dr. Sparrow, go ahead.
Thank you for that. It's been 15 months and I'm in Cherry Creek, so we're last on the list and we know that, which is good and bad. And I've looked at all places you have 10 consulting or 12 consulting events and online events. So you've definitely gone to the public in different ways. I keep seeing you reaching out. And this is the beginning of the document. Now they can see in writing, they can now adjust the document and keep going forward. So this is not an end date. This is the start of a discussion date to move forward. So, and we're looking at the crowd behind us. I see you probably will have some discussions in the future and maybe get to something that will please more than 50%. That's all you have to, because no one will always be happy, but good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Siga and then Director Roth.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that we are in a unique position of having our own localized knowledge put into this plan with much more community outreach and consideration than had this been contracted out. And I think the team has done a good job, and I look forward to seeing more of the plans coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Director Roth.
Thank you. I'm mostly speaking with reference to the letter from Sproat Lake and also some emails that went back and forth with Tishat. As you know, the OCP is a long-term document that will guide land use and growth in the area for decades. Our responsibility is not just to move it forward, but to make sure it is built on a process people can trust. What we're hearing today raises a common concern from two directions. Sproat Lake residents are asking for more time, more clarity, and better access to the input put behind the draft. At the same time, Tishat First Nation is telling us they were not meaningfully engaged in a plan that directly affects their territory and interests. Those concerns are different, but they point to the same issue. Confidence in the process is not there yet. Moving to first reading without that confidence carries real risk of ongoing dispute, erosion of trust, and ultimately having to revisit the work. That risk is even greater when there are outstanding concerns about First Nations involvement. I don't see this as a delay for the sake of a delay. I see it as a short, practical step to strengthen the foundation by improving transparency around the input received, clearly linking that input to the policies in the draft, and ensuring meaningful engagement with Tishat. Taking a bit more time now will make the plan more defensible, reduce conflict, and allow us to move forward with broader support. So I'm in favor of supporting the deferral of the first reading until those steps are completed. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Hold our applause, please. Okay, in regards to Indigenous consultation and conversations, Daniel, do you have an understanding of how that went?
I think Kylie is probably best positioned to answer, but there has been quite a bit of, Kylie, if you want to maybe provide the details. But I'll also flag that the process, as we've always done it, is that we do have engagement prior to, and then after the board receives and gives first reading, then it is formally referred to the nations as well. And there again, they have the opportunity to provide further feedback. Those changes that result from that feedback are then taken back to the public. So they end up being part of the public hearing, and then all of that comes back to the board before there's consideration for a second reading. But Kylie, if you can expand on what has been done so far, it would be useful.
Yeah, and in the context of the process as it's understood too, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So our outreach with the nations began at the initiation of the project with the formal letters that go out. After which we were in conversation with them in October of last year. We had been in conversation with both Seja and Hupachesset about coming to their chief and council meetings, and unfortunately the meeting we were on the agenda for, we ended up being deferred off of that for Seja. We did speak with the Hupachesset chief and council in December at one of their council meetings, and they had provided us with a variety of documents that they asked us to use in consultation with that. Our conversation after that with Seja was that they would prefer that we go out to community directly to get information. And so January and February, we were organizing that event with Seja, after which another invitation was made for us to speak with either directly community or chief and council, and it was directed to us that we should wait and hold off on that process. But we have been in contact with them throughout the process. We one of their staff members has been at our APC meetings and has provided commentary that was integrated into the plan at that point in time. So we have been in conversation with them behind the scenes a little bit more than in the formal arena on that.
we are also scheduled to present to
Yes.
Chief and Council next week.
We are.
Okay, thank you. That was my understanding of the process. Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I was in attendance at the open house at Tishat. It wasn't that well attended, but there was people there and did make comment, so there's that. And the information that Director Roth is talking about, I was not made aware of. I was not in that email paper trail until like yesterday, regarding the lack of consultation with Tishat. Mr. Wiley sent emails to Director Roth and other directors, but not to myself. I was not included, so I wasn't aware of what that information held until very recently. So I did call staff and made sure that there was an acceptance of going forward to first reading from Tishat, and I could let staff speak to that, but I was told that it was all clear. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that was confirmed in the response that was given by both staff members. Director Toth, please go ahead.
So I read through all the documentation over the last little bit and was a little confused with some of it. But I have a question for you is why were you not part of the consultation in regards to the meeting next week with the nation? I'm wondering if there should be a pause until you have a formal consultation with them next week. There just seems to be a little bit of confusion, and I kind of like to hear what the public has to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Toth. My understanding is that the process that was agreed upon at the very beginning was that first reading would happen and then it would be referred to the Tishat First Nation directly, and then it would go through their processes and come back. And that would be integrated into what was presented at the public hearing, which is later, later than that. Okay, Director Roth, go ahead.
In their presentation, sorry, I took a photograph of it. The next steps didn't include First Nations.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead.
I mean, the slideshow is not the comprehensive list that we follow, so. But then we're also verbally saying and on camera that what the process is, and it's no different. We just did the Long Beach OCP, and the same process was followed there. We worked with the nations in the area to get the first draft. Once the first draft received first reading, then it was formally referred back to the nations to provide formal comment. And that is part of the process, right? And so that is how we make sure that we're collecting all the information. That's where we make sure that voices are heard. And at the end of the day, then that is brought back to the public hearing. So then the general public gets to see the sum total of all the additional formal input that is received on the first draft. My concern, and we'll bring this up in deliberations afterwards, is that if we talk about a pause in order to do more outreach, that's fair, but a first reading also is the gateway to more outreach. And so at the end of the day, as Kylie indicated, you can have a pause at any point. The question would be then, what are we pausing to do? Because if we're pausing to do more outreach is part of the process after first reading as well. If we're pausing to do something else, then let's talk about what that something else is. And because like as a staff level, we need to know what it is that we're doing beyond pausing, right? And so those extra steps are vital, and then we can revisit our planning.
Okay, Dr. Roth, go ahead.
Well, it just seems that having the first reading now without proper consultation is like putting the cart before the horse. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right.
I think a good way to think of it is first reading kind of locks in what the final draft is that's presented to everyone, so that there's nothing that can be changed beforehand. And everything that's contemplated after has to be changed kind of in the light of day. So the idea is that this is the final draft of what it is we've put together. We as the ACRD. Tishat, what do you think? And whoever else, whatever you think. And then later there's a public hearing that provides an opportunity for residents and owners to come in and provide their thoughts as well. And then before second reading, or even after, depending on how you want to do it, you can make changes, but they're overt changes. They're kind of changes on the board. So that's my understanding of the why it's set up that way. So the cart isn't necessarily put before the horse. That would be if we were to do something strange, like upon third reading, which is usually like that's the final version that gets passed. So all the work usually gets done between first reading and third reading, as far as I know. Go ahead.
What type of vote? Is it a weighted vote that we would use when we're passing this? Because that would include the people of Tishat First Nation. Is it a weighted vote?
I'm uncertain. I don't think it's a region-wide community vote, so I think it's 1-to-1 or like one director, one vote. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It is a participant vote, so the electoral area directors participate in that, and it is unweighted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. This has been a very long process. This is my third OCP that I've been engaged with. The first one was very little consultation with the community, and first reading, first draft came to the community and they weren't happy with it. Second time through the OCP process was engagement with the community. We had learned something, and this time there's even more consultation with the community. The way that the process goes is to provide to the community what was heard. The last open house that we had, I was at, and I actually went around. There was quite a few questions asked, and I went around to those people that asked those questions, and I said, "Did you get answers?" And every time they said yes. So it would be interesting to hear. I don't know if I can put the staff on the hot seat here, but maybe to answer some of the questions that were asked, if you could address those questions regarding why things are in here and why these policies are in here, and observations for protection of the community. So I don't know if you want to address those or not. I did a review myself last night when I reviewed the OCP in total, and nothing really stood out to me that was not going to protect our community. The values that we have are high. So when you talk about remove all information and policies about watershed, water management, and water controls, to me is a red light. We need to protect our water with everything we have, because that's our drinking water, our resource for fisheries, for everything. And I just don't understand the reasoning behind these questions. And I don't know if staff can address that or not. Thank you.
Before we get to staff, and we will, they'll be up next. Dr. Cote, you alluded to 2 other OCPs. When did they happen? Because there's quite a while ago for the first one.
The first one would have been in 2005-ish, and the second one was 2014.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll have staff answer some of those questions. Don't go too crazy, and then we'll go right to Tom. Director Steer. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It is a good question, because it was an iterative process throughout. I mean, it has been throughout the 18 months, but particularly with the draft being released in April, and then the open house held at the beginning of May, and then lots of conversations held, throughout May and into June. We have been updating the bylaw with what we've been hearing, and what we've heard from the Property Owners Association is in the agenda, but some of the aspects we've clarified as a part of the fact sheet that we produced and we published on May 26th. There are things in there that like the conservation policies, for example, that aren't new. They were originally in the 2005 map. They relate to environmentally sensitive waterfront areas that are all crown land or private forestry lands, right? So you know, we've gone through each of those comments as we've received them and looked at ways where we can modify the wording, put property owners and residents front and center on you know, a lot of those concerns, and then look at where we can leverage partnerships and leverage grant opportunities where we can, but recognizing that you know, we can't complete every project that we have listed in the OCP without community support from grants or from partnerships or from our neighboring governments. You know, that the inclusion of those policies in the OCP really speaks to the support for future grant applications. And so we've put some effort in the fact sheet in particular, but also in the wording of the OCP to clarify that fact.
Thank you. Director Steer, you had your hands up, but then not anymore.
Yeah, no, thank you through the chair. And it was just a point of order, Chair. I was just wondering because for further discussion on this particular, there is an agenda item 12.1A where there will be much further and in-depth opportunity for discussion outside of the delegation process. And I'm wondering if we could reserve further comments on the agenda item that is under 12.1A for that particular time in the agenda.
Okay, I think that's a fair comment. So does anyone have a final comment? Director Sparrow, you're the last one.
Thanks. Always like being last. So last on the OPP list. My question is, I know the last one was here too. If we were to pause this, we put it at the very end of the list, so I won't be last. Would that cause too much of a delay and therefore have to redo all the information? Or not? I know you don't want to.
Question, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, that's another good question. So the timeline we have set out allows us to get to a public hearing in the second week of July. You know, that is feedback that we heard from the community that you know, they would like to see the public hearing in the summer when the most number of residents are here. Not proceeding with first reading today doesn't allow us to meet the advertising timelines and the engagement timelines that we have to meet, and that also that we want to meet with the community in order to make that. So not receiving first reading today will risk that public hearing in the second week of July, and we'll be looking into the end of August, likely beyond that. And then we're of course approaching the election, and what we will be challenged in having board discussions regarding the OCP the closer we get to the election, and particularly in September. So the staff recommendation is to proceed at this point and to really button up that community discussion over the summer. Depending on what happens at the public hearing, the board through each of the steps has the opportunity to pause and to take more time if we're hearing from community that that's appropriate.
So just for my final comment, it's like passing a bylaw, right? There's the first draft that goes to committee, and then it goes to first reading. That's kind of the idea. And then in between first and second reading, and even second and third reading, there could be changes. They have to be done by the board and through resolution. And then third readings and adopting it is what it's going to be. And so that's the process, but it's drawn out over weeks, months, I guess, depending on when you start the clock. So I think there's plenty of time to go through this process in a good way. So I thank you for your work, and we'll get on with it. So thank you. And just so everybody knows in the crowd, I set the temperature to 20 degrees. So if you're cold, I apologize. Okay. I am overheating, but I know. Oh yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, we just got to do minutes and then we'll go right to it. So it's public input, not necessarily questions. So there's no cross-examinations. Okay, so next up is the consent agenda. So this is when we look at all of our pieces of meeting minutes. And if anybody wants to pull anything out, then they have the opportunity to, and then we can go through each of those separately. Or we can have a motion that will receive and adopt each of the different pieces of meeting minutes that are listed in the agenda. First of which, would anyone like to pull anything out of the consent agenda? Director Siga?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on item H, if I may, just to say that I really appreciated the board remuneration committee findings, and it was nice to be heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. That is not pulling anything out though. Would anyone like to move the consent agenda item that the items A to J on the consent agenda be received and adopted? Director Cote?
did have my hand up. I did have, so I'd like to pull, item D, Sprout Lake APC meeting, Tuesday, April 7th. Just a correction. It's not Ken Watts, it's Len Watts. Len.
Okay. They are next to each other on the keyboard, so that could be a typo, but you're right. Is that something we could incorporate into just if it's a correction rather than some huge problem? It doesn't require to be pulled out. We just add it to the motion? Or, oh, it's just a correction. Okay. All right. If we can just correct it then. Okay. It's been moved. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Haggard. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so we don't have any items removed from the consent agenda. And that brings us into the public input period. Okay, so I'm gonna have to read something out just so we all know what's going on here. So first off, the public input period is 15 minutes total. Public will be permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes on an agenda item. No video, no use of presentations, handouts, or props are permitted. Virtual attendees, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. And in-person attendees, please raise your hand to speak. Before we do that, I have to read this out. Public input period is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board or committee on agenda items, other than agenda items that are restricted, including 1, a bylaw in respect of which a public hearing has been held, or is not required to be held, or must not be held. 2, a development variance permit or a temporary use permit unless the delegate is addressing the board at the meeting during which the permit is being considered. 3, ongoing legal proceedings. 4, personnel matters. 5, publicly tendered contracts before they are awarded, because there's a whole process for that. And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. Please identify your name, the civic street you live on, and identify the agenda item with which you wish to speak. Okay, we'll open it up. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Harley. Make sure you hit the button just so the people online can hear you too.
That's right. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah. Harley Wiley, number 26005 Santu Drive, Port Alberni. You got my rank and serial number 2. Anything else? No, seriously. Is there anything else that you need? Okay. Yes, the OCPs. Thanks. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of old school. With this, I'm going to use something that my chief just sent me. So I want to be clear. That's why I'm using this. And what our chief Ken Watts says, not Len, Ken, is he's not so much in favor of deferring or putting this on pause as long as there is a clear communication that there will be true engagement with chief, with council, and administration. And there are a number of things that he lists on the email he sent me, but so long as there's an opportunity to have true engagement, which he and many of us on council feel has not happened yet, that's his perspective. Mine coming into this has been to put this, to defer this and put it on pause. However, I'm going to go with the consensus of our chief who speaks on behalf of our community. And I think that it's necessary to have a meeting with council and with administration. That has not happened yet. And I know my name has been tossed in the discussion here, so I'll take that as it's fair enough for me to do the same thing. I believe that our chief and myself are the only ones that know Sprout Lake Director Penny Cote. The rest do not. The name is unfamiliar to them and a lot of people in our community. So with this, I think it gives an opportunity to open the door to actually begin having true discussion and consultation with our community and find out who the director is, what the agenda items are, what the important items in this area that is part of our territory are actually having take place. So with that, I'm going to set aside my personal feelings on this and go with what our chief counselor has said. So thank you.
Thank you, Harley. Anyone next? All right, thanks, Colin.
Okay, Colin McClellan, Lakeshore Road. This 106-page draft was huge for a short meeting, so it took a while. We should have had First Nations at that meeting at the Sproul Lake Community Center. It didn't happen, so now there's some issues. I would like to know how you came up with your core policies, because they have changed order from the original draft till today. How do you compile your data to come up with your conclusion? Was my lengthy discussion against regional park spending given more power than my quick thumbs up to food security? Because I just passed by it and said, cool. Because some of these issues in the core policies totally are opposite of current federal polling data as of this week. Reconciliation was at 3%. At the meeting, we were told pretty much everyone made that top priority over agricultural and food security. I noticed you in your social media post, you said that there had been changes and we've been heard and you're making some changes to the adjustments. Is that adjustments just what you wrote today, or is there something solid in what a guy could print off an OCP again today? So that's the question I have. You know, other examples of why I'm confused is how you're complying your data with the STRs, which is something I'm not really interested in and don't really care about. But you say it's a 50-50 split. We had 2 town hall style meetings in Sprout Lake. Director Cote was at both of them in the audience, and they were 100% in favor. One was about STRs, and just that's all the vote was. And yes, it was just hands only, and I'm sure Mrs. Cote won't like it was how the wording was, or it wasn't long enough. I apologize for that. But the other one was about the ACRD opting out of the provincial scheme when it came to the STRs. That was also 100% in favor of opting out. That shows that there was probably some support towards STRs, more than 50-50. Now, just want to know how you guys are compiling your data. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to numbers. So I would like to see the first reading stalled off, not for 2 years, just so we can have a sit down with the First Nations, with the residents, everyone, and so they don't appear to be the boogeyman that some people are seeing with the current rhetoric going on in provincial and federal politics. When you see DRIPA and UNDRIP spewed everywhere, then their names over 100 times, people are looking at that like there's a problem. Like you've been tone deaf with this.
Got about 5 seconds.
Okay, I'm sorry. And this is no disrespect to Alex and his team. I know they've worked hard. I've been to their meetings, and please, no disrespect. It was just some fine tuning, and I don't want it postponed for years, just weeks.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, guys. Sorry.
All right, next up.
Norm Cardinal and I live on Taylor Arm Drive on Sprout Lake. The question I have is that I am not part of the board of the Sprout Lake Association, but I am a member of it, and like everybody else there who is a member. And we sent out a survey with lots of questions asking their opinions. We did a survey on it. And the question I have for you guys is, and I don't even know, did you respond back to the Sprout Lake Association when they sent the letter to you, and what specific suggestions that we had as a community, how many were adopted and changed? Like, we don't know. Like, I mean, it's hard. It's a huge document. And so can you tell us right now, like, what were any of those suggestions? Did you make changes to any of them or none of them?
So this is public input period. They're not supposed to talk back. They're supposed to listen to you.
Okay.
If you want to list your questions, then we can do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So that's my question. I just want to know if there was a response and whether there was changes made to the suggestions that were brought forward based on a poll that we did. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak? Oh, yes. Sorry. We do have someone online. Penny Paul, I believe. So you'll be, please, if you have the camera, use it. But I think you're going to be unmuted soon.
Can you
All
hear
right.
me?
You're unmuted. Please go ahead, Penny.
Okay, okay. Yeah, my name is Penny Paul and I live on Sterling Arm for at least half the year. And the other part of the year I'm in Vancouver and sometimes in Mexico.
Penny, can you speak up a little bit? Just so, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
You might need to get closer to whatever your microphone is.
Okay, let me see. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Bit better? Okay. Yeah, so what I was saying is that I live on Sterling Arm Drive about 6 months of the year, and sometimes in Vancouver, sometimes in Mexico. I'm on the executive, I'm a director of the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association. We have about 400 members, so we represent a big portion of the population. And I'm also a lawyer, not that that really gives me any more credibility than anybody else, but I guess I'm more used to reading documents than most people. And what I'm saying is that meaningful discussion and consultation can only really start once a draft document is produced. And we've had this document in our possession for about a month. And it's 120 pages, I think, if you include the history. So it's a big, big document. And meaningful discussion and consultation can only begin once we've seen that. And that's especially because the community has been presented with a document filled with rules and regulations that were never discussed at any of these open houses. At the open houses, we had simple chalkboards with 8 to 10 questions that none of them really related to what is in the document at the end of the day. And now listening to the board, you guys and the directors, I'm understanding that we haven't even seen the final draft. This is not fair to the community, that you should be trying to ram through a document on first reading that we haven't even read. That's not fair. That's not true consultation. That's not true discussion. We need to talk about what's in that document and what shouldn't be in that document and what modifications might be made. And we can't do that without the document. So now we are given to what you're saying is that you want to do first reading, approve it today, and then we're fighting an uphill battle because the document is written and it's now basically the onus has changed. We need to change the document if we don't like it. That's unfair as well. Susan Roth is correct that this is like the horse or the cart before the horse. We'll be fighting the draft. One thing I would like to know is that what did the surveys say? You had 2 surveys, but we were not presented with the results of those surveys.
10 seconds, Penny.
I would like to know what the results of the surveys were because they were supposed to direct where this draft was going, and we don't even know what they said. So I would really ask that this first reading be postponed so that we could have meaningful consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Okay, we have enough time for one more if you wanted to come up. Technically, the lady in the back had her hand up first. No? Okay. Okay. Make sure you turn on the red thingy. Yeah, thank you.
Sherry Stevens, Serenga Road, Port Alberni, BC. You know, Kylie, you did a great presentation. I got more out of this 15-minute presentation than I have in the whole year and a half I've been kind of reviewing all this. I appreciate that. I went to most of the open houses and participated in a lot of the surveys, and I found them very casual. Like, it was nothing compared to the document that I've read through a number of times recently. I just want it to be publicly known that me and my husband, Ross Stevens, feel that this OCP encroaches on our private property rights. And here, let me rephrase that. We feel that this recent Sprout Lake and Area OCP bylaw number P1540 draft dated April 2026 encroaches on our rights as property owners and taxpayers in Sprout Lake. We adhere to all rules and regulations, but I find this is giving us 10 times more rules and regulations, and it's going to take more time and be more work and energy for everybody involved. So that's just my 2 bits, and thank you.
Thank you for that. That does allow for more time, so we can have one more speaker if you want to come on. I'm going to hold you to 3 minutes though, because that'll take us right to it. Oh, got to use the thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I lost my voice last week. I'm always before you with some ailment. At least this time I'm not pregnant. Anyway. Sabrina Zimmerman, Sprout Lake Area D, live on Dixon Drive. What was the other information I was supposed to give? That's it? Good.
Yeah,
Good to go.
you're going to talk to the OCP.
Okay, yes, I'm going to speak to the OCP. Could you please put it on pause? And the reason I say that is because I've heard from all the different communities, all the different community members, business owners. People are very upset with what was presented in the draft. And that it's not meant to come across as a criticism to staff. I know that the staff have worked really hard putting on the events and listening to the community. So thank you. And thank you, Penny. I know you show up for all our town halls and all the events as well, all the meetings. So no disrespect to any of the work that staff have put in. However, there is not a single thing that we've asked for at our town halls that the community has requested in this document. One of the biggest things that the community has been asking for is the incorporation study to be reopened and looked at. And that's not mentioned in the OCP. Alex was mentioning the timeline for what would be the benefit to pushing through the first reading versus pausing it. And the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association has been conducting town halls, which are always filled. It's like 100+ people every single time. And the surveys and information that the membership sends is very contradictory to what is in the OCP for what people want. People wanted less regulations, less provincial input. They wanted more or less taxes. That was a big one. Taxes went up quite a bit, so we've been hearing from our membership on that. So my suggestion is if you could please pause this process, because it is really fracturing the community, and also with the Tichat, meaningful consultation needs to take place. My suggestion would be to allow the Sprout Lake property owners to do a town hall in July. We were planning on doing one anyways, so that would save you on. Alex was a community engagement that was required to to, like, that was the reason that you wanted to push the first reading through, correct? So if we put on that community event, that would solve that situation.
All right, thank
So,
you. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. We do have one individual online who may have put his hands up at the same time. Could we have a motion to approve one more person? Thank you, Dr. Cote, Dr. Toth. All those in favor? Okay, this will be the last person. So I believe his name is Mike. You'll be unmuted if you want to go. You have 3 minutes. But it'll start when you start. You got to introduce yourself and where you are.
Actually, is it Dale, John?
Dale. Oh, sorry. His last name starts with M. There we go. Okay, please go ahead, Dale. Yeah, I see you're unmuted, but can you speak? Okay, you got 10 seconds before we're going to move on. Sorry. So you got to pick the right microphone in the microphone menu in the lower left.
Is it working now?
Yes, it is. Okay, you just got in.
Okay, I
9 seconds.
apologize for that.
Okay, so introduce
It's
yourself
Da-
and I'll start the timer now.
Dale Mickety, Sterling Arm Crescent. I'm a member of the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association. I know you guys feel you need to have first reading approval so that you can further engage. I don't understand why you can't engage without the approval. There has been some meetings, but a lot of this has come at us like a ton of bricks. And I would prefer that further consultation is given to the residents of the Sprout Lake area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McTee. I think I pronounced it right. Okay, and that is it for public input. Thank you everyone for your interest. I think there will be more discussion once we get to that item, and that'll be after we do grants and aid, so it's going to be a while. But that's that. Thank you. Okay. So that's moving from item 8 into item 9, which is correspondence for information. Does anyone want to pull anything out? We might give it a minute here for folks to filter out. Does anyone want to pull anything out of correspondence or information? Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'd like to pull item E, Property Owners Association letter. Page
Yep.
57.
Please go ahead.
It would be nice to have information on what the staff will be doing regarding this letter. Will you be answering questions regarding the request to pull things from the OCP? How do we deal with this? Thank you.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that, and we will have some more information when we get up to the item for Sprout Lake as well. But I will say that that we have heard from the Property Owners Association. We understand what the changes they have proposed would look like. We've incorporated some of those, and where we've incorporated things into the draft that's presented for you for first reading, we have communicated that to the Property Owners Association throughout the process. We do have a table of changes that that we can make available to the public ahead of the public hearing that lays out the changes that we made specifically, why we made it, and if we weren't able to make it, why we did not, and some commentary on what we heard. So the policies around the conservation lands I already spoke to. There's been no changes there. Provincial jurisdiction on items like archaeology, on roads, and on watershed assessment and water quality. We've clarified the wording on a lot of those things to ensure that where the property owners have a seat at the table, that would be appropriate. Where the ACRD can rely on provincial jurisdiction to take the lead on regulations, we would rather do that. That makes more sense. We will be there. I think the community wants us there in partnership when we look at things like watershed assessments. But it is the responsibility of the province, and we've attempted to make that more clear. The policy expansion that's laid out within the plan, I think we've spoken to that it is really a laundry list of items that have come out of other plans that the ACRD has produced, and that could be achieved if we had grant leveraging and partnership opportunities. The dock policies, there's some commentary on that in their letter. Nothing's changed on the dock regulations from the current OCP into the proposed new one. The Heritage Act, I mean, it's clear that the province deals with heritage conservation through the Heritage Conservation Act, and we would want, the ACRD wants the province to take the lead on that. I think that makes more sense. And of course, we'll work with our community partners and with Sachant and Hupech as closely as possible. And there is some wording about updating the development procedures bylaw that could look at more communication on applications and development. There's some commentary on housing, on the need for increased housing. The provincial government, again, has required the local governments to incorporate housing needs into the OCPs. And so we've done that. We've met the minimum requirement that the province requires. But again, I think what we've heard from people is that they don't want a diversity of housing types. They've leaned in the accessory dwelling units, secondary suites, single family detached housing, and that is the focus of the OCP. And then in terms of public access to waterfront and parks and trails and open spaces, there's some comments about the removal of parks being dedicated by property owners as part of development. Once again, that's regulated by Local Government Act, and we don't have as much control over that. Public access to waterfront piece, when we heard from members of the public who don't live on the waterfront, we heard that they want access to the waterfront, and we have policies in there that speak to focusing on those existing accesses, so the parks, the provincial parks, the regional parks, and the community parks that we have in the community, and ways to improve that before we dedicate new spaces. So in planning staff's view, I think we've addressed a lot of the changes. I will say that we are offering and we're happy and willing to meet with the Property Owners Association ahead of the public hearing, and we want to really lean into what we can do, what we can incorporate as part of their requests, and really have them understand what we've heard from the rest of the community as well. But we have times, we have the time to make the change. In my view, first reading really puts us in the starting block for that public input period, and allows us to open up the conversation and have those meetings with the Property Owners Association, so we can understand what it'll take to seek more support for the document. We're happy to do that work.
Go ahead, Dr. Cote.
Thank you. This is one email that came from the Sprout Lake property owners from Penny Fall, I believe, and the other emails that I received were not so specific. They just said, please pause this process, with no reason, no valid reason why we should pause it. So quite confused as far as why people were asking for a pause. It really doesn't give me direction on how to move forward. I hear my community saying that they want more time, but I'm not sure for what reason, when a lot of these, like, I've read the OCP a number of times and went through it all last night, and was specifically looking for the things that we could change with this. I think that there is more conversation that is required, but I don't really see why it would stop the first reading, because that's just a part of the process to move things forward. the whole thing can be changed or thrown out or whatever. But once we give it first reading, we can keep moving forward in a positive manner rather than there just didn't seem to be enough valid reason to from the emails that I received. The comments today, there's only what 3 people left. It's too bad that they weren't still here and there wasn't more input that we could have heard at the board. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Director Cote. I think you're kind of answering your own question. My understanding of the process is that there is actually plenty of time left for individuals and organizations and rights holders and stakeholders to provide input to the OCP. There's actually a lot of time. This is the beginning of the process, not the beginning of the end. And I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how our processes work. And that's not necessarily the fault of the staff. It may be our fault as the board to not telegraph that more specifically. So we're not going to limit the engagement to just all the stuff we did at first. That's to help the staff get a sense of the general direction that we're going in. Once we have a draft plan, that isn't locked in because that's still a draft. There are changes that can be made on your recommendation based on the input that we receive from people. So the plan is still a Word document. It's not a PDF. We can edit it, right? And so I think what we need to really communicate to people is that let us not get stuck on the favored solution of pause, because that's predicated on an error. That's predicated on the understanding that no changes can be made, and that's not true. So what the actual problem is that people who haven't been paying attention are just now starting to pay attention, and they're worried that there are things in there that could be scary. My reading of the OCP is that it's not. It's actually kind of basic. It actually makes things more efficient, especially with those, what do they call it? The DAPs? The DPAs, that's what it is. That actually makes things so much more understandable from my perspective as a layman, right? So I think we have a strong plan that may be changed here and there, and I think you should demonstrate that you're open to those changes, but it's on your recommendation. These folks want to be able to have input. They can, and they can in the time that's allotted to them too. So I think that there's plenty of time. It means that you're going to have to get out there, but you already have. So I think that's already good. I think you're in an okay position, Director Cote.
So we have a meeting next week with Shat to go over the OCP, the draft. And so my question then is to staff, the next step would be the open house or the public hearing.
So steps can be added before the public hearing as well.
Yes.
So, and that's on your recommendation on the ideas that everyone here has.
That's what I would like to see happen. Another public engagement, but after first reading, I think that we need to have a starting point to move forward. And this is my 3rd time with the OCP. Yeah, the first one was a mess. But that was presented by the board. You know, like they had taken everything and said, here's your OCP. And the public didn't like that. So, you know, this is the 3rd time. I think you've learned a lot, made a lot of changes, and had started with public consultation and brought that forward to begin with. I would like to have more input from the community. So I don't know how we could include that. I don't believe that the Sprout Lake property owners are the only voices in my community. I know people who aren't part of that. I'm not a part of that. I have seen a survey, but there wasn't very much detail in my opinion. So I'd like to make sure that the regional district is bringing forward an opportunity for that input.
So before we bring it to Daniel, I do note that we have Director Beckett, Director Roth, and then Director Toth. I want to say though that the interactions with Tashat are based on their inherent rights, which are collective rights, which means that it's chief and council, not just any random citizen or member of their community. And that needs to be handled differently. I would suggest that I think we have enough time for you to put together the types of engagements you want to see, and we can pass them, or the electoral area directors can pass them as a schedule that can be added to the work plan for the OCP while we're in process. So that's something that you can do as your community's leader to show responsiveness to what's being asked. The problem isn't whether or not we have a draft. The problem is whether or not people feel like they have a good opportunity for input and understanding. And we can provide both of those things without stopping the process. That's the real problem. And that's our job as leaders. We identify the problem, we don't immediately jump on the solution that's presented. We identify the real problem first, right? Sorry to keep you waiting, Director Beckett. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Director Steer mentioned it earlier. I'm not sure we should be having the discussion under correspondence, and we should be having this discussion under 12.1, because I certainly have some strong opinions that I want to share, but I don't believe this is the place to discuss it right now. I would, based on my comments then, like to make the motion that the Board of Directors receive item A through E for information.
Seconded by Director Cote. Any further comments? Director Roth?
Well, I did want to speak specifically to that letter. The
Okay.
Spruce Lake property, okay. I just wanted to say, like, when I read it, I see a lack of trust. And I'm just curious, when was the last change to the draft?
So the engagement period ended on May 24th, and we continued to hear comments from people in the last week of May and in the last week as well. So there were changes that we were making throughout April and May, and the last changes to the draft followed the publication of the fact sheet at the end of May, and communication we received at the beginning of June. So the most up-to-date draft that you have available today was produced last week.
Okay, so that actually is very valid, what Penny Paul was saying, because isn't this a process, and you wait so many days? So really the last draft is only a week old. So that kind of, there's a bit of unfairness there.
But it's the idea is that we don't see it until it's presented at first reading. It's not a thing.
I'm just looking at procedure and process.
That's the procedure.
So the process doesn't say you have 3 weeks between the end draft.
No, because it doesn't become a thing until it's presented at first reading. And then there's a number of weeks and so on and so forth. That's when the timelines kick in.
So it's arbitrary.
It's up to the board, which is different.
Okay.
Right? It's not arbitrary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I will take your point, Director Steer. We'll hold all of our comments to the 12.1, I believe it is, or whatever it is. So we'll do it then. Everyone just hold your comments and we'll get there, because we have to do grants and aid too, guys. Okay. So, yeah. All those in favor of the correspondence? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to correspondence for action, with which there is none. And now it brings us to a request for decisions and reports, request for decisions regarding grants and aid. I think Director Roth has a good idea. Let's call a 5-minute break before we dive in. I could use a refreshment break. So let's come back at 3, and then we'll go right into it. Okay? Thank you. All right, that's about 1 minute warning, maybe a bit less. It may change when I lose weight, but right now it's 20 degrees, guys. 68 degrees. All right, we should be coming back now, folks. So please turn your cameras back on, and we'll kick back into listening to Shane. Because there's a mountain of work that was done as well, and we should get through that in good time. Okay, so we are currently at section 11, part A, request for decision regarding 2026 grants and aid applications. And we are going to start with the West Coast Committee recommendations. So Shane, do you want to give us an overview, and then we'll have the discussion. What I'd like to do, because Director Toth asked about our the way that we do motions, let's move the motion first. And then if we'd like to make any changes, they can be amending motions. Okay? All right, please go ahead, Shane.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So as Chair Jack alluded to, I'll give a brief overview of the process that got us here, and then we'll run through each section. So before you is the 2026 grant and aid recommendations, which are a result of direction as provided at the West Coast Committee, the Alberni Valley and Banfield Committee, the Committee of the Whole, and individual directors where applicable. The recommended awards, denials, and additional details are provided in the report. So each section has the recommendations as were made at the associated committee or as confirmed with each director. And I do want to flag a few following items. In relation to the West Coast Committee, they had requested additional information regarding the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust expenditures. This is provided in appendices to the report. There's also a comment regarding reoccurring projects and how the policy allows us to fund those. And per the grant and aid policy, the only reference to reoccurring projects is that grant and aid recipients are encouraged to work towards financial independence where possible. The Committee of the Whole had requested additional clarification regarding the Alberni District Fall Fair regarding their total requested amount. We subsequently confirmed that the application was for $1,500 and not $2,500 as originally provided in that report. As such, the regional grant and aid now has an additional $1,000 of funding remaining, which can be allocated if desired. There's also a recommended caveat on the Touchot Lightning application, in which funding is contingent on them receiving society status by September 30th, 2026. I will leave it there, and the first recommendation group is the West Coast.
Would anyone like to make the motion, and then we can subject it to discussion? Director Steer, go ahead.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 West Coast Grant and Aid category grants to the following organizations: $2,000 to the Surfrider Foundation, $2,000 to the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust, $2,000 to the Ucluelet Aquarium Society, $2,000 to the Redfish Restoration Society, $1,200 to the Pacific Rim Art Society, and $1,000 to the Ucluelet and Area Historical Society.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Siga. Okay, any discussion? Director Toth, please go ahead.
Can you, I'm new to this, so can you explain how these dollar amounts come to discussion? Thanks.
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. So there's a process of applications that organizations are asked to fill out, and then they designate which area they'd like to apply to, West Coast, Alberni Valley, or everyone, that sort of thing. And then it's reviewed at a committee level after being reviewed by staff to make sure that it's accurate, and then it's being streamed to the right place. The committees do a review of the process, and then they make recommendations based on their understanding of what the application is saying, what they're saying they need, and whether or not they're willing to give them as much as they're asking for. So committees aren't restricted to just giving them what they're asking for or nothing. They can reduce what they're giving if they want. Does that help? Okay. Was I correct, Shane? Hey, thumbs up. Oh no, I don't do taxes. Shane, can you help me with that?
Yeah, so to provide a little bit of clarity around that. So each pool of funding is funded through the participants of each individual service. And as such, as part of our budget deliberations each year, a predetermined limit is set. There's no requirement to spend that entire limit. So for example, our 2026 budget limits were set as part of the budget that was adopted in March of this year. And again, directors do take that into consideration when discussing the amounts as requested.
Yeah, and that part, setting the total budgets, was something that was actually innovated during this term of office. I believe it was Director Cote and Director Roth who kind of were at the forefront of that. Kind of, let's put a budget to those ones, right? I think I'm remembering that correctly, but I think that really helped us streamline how we approached grants and aid, because before it was just brutal, because we had this big number at the top and we tried to fill out everything, and sometimes it didn't work. Okay, sorry about that, but that's good background, good history. We're talking about the West Coast Committee recommendations. It's been moved. I haven't heard anybody wanting to change anything, so I'm going to give one last chance. Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Director Steer. Okay, next up is we have the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District grant and aid category for the entire region, I believe. Yes? Yes, the regional grant and aid category. Please go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. So these are the recommendations as provided at the committee of the whole. And again, I will flag that the Alberni District Fall Fair has been amended to their requested amount of $1,500. So there is an additional $1,000, which can be applied this year. It can also be left and rolled forward as surplus for next year's budget.
Could we start with the motion, please? Please go ahead, Dr. Roth.
I move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 Regional Grant and Aid category grants to the following organizations: $1,500 to Alberni District Fall Fair, $6,000 to West Coast Inland Search and Rescue, $6,000 to the Alberni Valley Rescue Squad, $2,500 to the Vancouver Island North Film Commission, $3,500 to the Alberni Athletic Soccer Club, and $6,000 to the Alberni Valley Hospice Society.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you for that. We have that $1,000 still sitting there, which is fine. We can still use that throughout the year for $500 grants if somebody comes in with something, can't we? Do grant and aid up to $500, so we could use it as a small cushion if somebody wanted to use it. Is that correct?
There's nothing specifically in the policy. The policy does have the application deadline set as April 30th of each year, but the board could make a recommendation and subsequently move forward with that if that's the direction that they would like to move.
Any further comments? Director Steer, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I just want to point out the $6,000 to the Alberni Valley Hospice Society, and this is in no way a reflection of the incredibly good work that they do. But as this is a regional and we have our own hospice society here on the West Coast, I just wanted to flag for next year's considerations that there is an understanding with the society that it may be more appropriate to fit it into a different category in terms of its grant application for the next fiscal year coming up. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Stick a pin on that one. After we're done this category, let's maybe have a motion that instructs staff to do that when they're doing their streaming. Dr. Siga? Oh, you are muted, Dr. Siga.
Thank you. You've addressed.
Oh, okay, cool. Any further comments? Dr. Roth, go ahead.
I think it's up to the organization to choose which area, isn't it? Like, I don't think it's up to us.
Oh, we can build barriers wherever we want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
As is our prerogative. We just got to say beforehand. Shane, go ahead. Heather Zenner, please, would you like to clarify?
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that some of the applicants don't understand the categories overly well. So we try and do a cursory review and reach out to applicants to really understand if their project is regional in nature. Unfortunately, I was away when the applications came in, so I would have reached out to hospice to really determine if their application was regional in nature or was it more Alberni Valley and Banfield focused. So we do review every application and we do go back to the applications that may need to be tweaked slightly. And we only change the applications if the applicant is supportive of that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Heather. Any further comments? So we have the items for the regional grants and aid already moved, seconded. I don't see anybody wanting to change anything. Dr. Toth, please go ahead. Oh, yeah, okay. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Dr. Steer, do you want to do a motion just to direct that?
Well, I was wondering, Chair Jack, and as Ms. Zenner has just pointed out, there is an oversight that is utilized through the process, and unfortunately, with this year, in her absence, that this may have been overlooked. I don't know if it would be necessary for staff to have that kind of clarification motion. I'm comfortable with Ms. Zenner's explanation in lieu of that, but if the board or maybe through the chair, if they've thought a clarifying motion would be necessary, I'm happy with the process as it stands. I just wanted to clarify that for future.
Yeah, I can confirm that it's probably heard loud and clear, but Dr. Siga, thoughts?
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to put forward a motion that the West Coast Committee be given prior knowledge of what is being put forward as regional before this comes to a board meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's already a practice, but that's fine. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Solda. Any further comments? All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Dr. Haggard, did you have a comment?
I did. I believe we made that motion for clarification of these at the last meeting. Yes, we did. So I don't think we need another motion because the motion's already been made that we will review these in more detail next year.
Thank you for the reminder. That brings us to Beaver Creek, which is not organized in the same way, but it is still the same list. Director Shane, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll speak to the next two items in the recommendation as they both do relate to regional and in some factor. So the next award is related to the grant and aid application for the Alberni Valley Makerspace, in which $2,700 is coming from the regional grant and aid category and $2,300 is coming from the Beaver Creek electoral area grant and aid. Following that is the recommendation for an award of $5,800 to Shot Lightning, again with that caveat of them obtaining society status by September 30th of this year.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe we keep the Tashot one a separate motion, but that's great. Thank you for the explanation. Any further comments? Would anyone like to move the first one about the makerspace. Director Roth, please go ahead.
Okay, I move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors awards a $5,000 grant in aid to Alberni Valley Makerspace with $2,700 from the 2026 Regional Grant in Aid category and the remaining $2,300 from the 2026 Beaver Creek Electoria Area Grant in Aid category.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Silva. Any comments? I'll just say it's cool that you did that, Director Roth. So thank you. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, so that brings us to the Tashant Lightning one, which is awarding $5,800 contingent on society status by September 30th. Director Haggard?
I'd like to move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors awards $5,800 to Shashat Lightning from the 2026 Regional Grant in Aid category, contingent on obtaining society status by September 30th, 2026.
Seconded by Director Silva. Any further comments? Director Toth? Oh, you were seconding? Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Yeah, motion carried. Okay, now we have a bigger category for Alberni Valley and Banfield. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So next up is the recommended grant and aid awards from the Alberni Valley and Banfield grant and aid category.
Okay, could we have someone move the motion, please? Dr. Roth, please go ahead.
I move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 Alberni Valley and Banfield Grant and Aid category grants to the following organizations: $7,500 to the Port Alberni Picklers, $7,800 to Alberni Valley Food Security Society, $2,500 to the West Coast Community Learning Hub, $7,500 to the Port Alberni Backpack Program Society, $1,500 to the Canadian Council of the Blind, $30,000 to Port Alberni Victim Services, $10,000 to the West Coast Native Healthcare Society, $2,500 to the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Vancouver Island, $5,000 to the Port Alberni Black Sheep Rugby Union Football Club, $6,500 to the Port Alberni Salmon Festival Society, $700 to the Spirit Square Farmers Market Association, $10,500 to the ADAPS Youth and Family Services, $5,000 to Port Alberni Marine Rescue Society, and $23,360 to the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Silva. Any further comments? Dr. Cote?
Thank you. Through the chair to staff, so ADAPS Youth Family Service, 10,500. Does that have anything to do with the presentation that we heard today? No, I don't. It's
That's separate.
So is it a different program?
Yeah, so that Foundry is the presentation we had earlier today, and this application is different. Yeah.
And that's where I got DAPS from instead of DPS. Dr. Roth, you're oops. Oh, okay, no comment. Any further comments? We're almost halfway. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Dr. Solda, go ahead.
Could I make an amendment on the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce and take that? Wait. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that we make an amendment or.
I missed you.
Okay,
Yeah, it's kind of too late.
that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so next up is Banfield. I'll just go to Director Beckett. There's the one item. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make the motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 Banfield Electoral Area Grant and Aid category a grant in the amount of $10,000 to Banfield Community Affairs.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Cote. Any comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to Beaufort. Dr. Toth, do you just want to read this one up?
I put forward a motion that the Alberni Lakeout Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 Beaufort Electoral Area Grant in Aid category a grant in amount of $500 to the Alberni Valley Enhancement Society.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Cote. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? A motion carried. All right, that brings us to Long Beach. Dr. Siga, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, I'd like to move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 Long Beach Electoral Area Grant and Aid category a grant in the amount of $2,000 to the Clayoquot Action Society.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. I see your chat, Director Coots. That's all good. We still have quorum. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the next item, Sprout Lake. Dr. Cote.
I move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award from the 2026 Sprout Lake Electoral Area Grant and Aid category grants to the following organizations: $20,000 to the Sprout Lake Community Hall Association for water supply well, $1,200 to the Youth Outrigger Chase Race.
Okay, do we have a second? Thank you, Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Just for our benefit, it's the Outrigger Change Race. Not certain if that's what you said, Dr. Cote. That brings us to Cherry Creek. Dr. Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, look, last guy. That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board Directors Award from the 2026 Cherry Creek Electoral Grant and Aid category. A grant in the amount of $22,000 to the Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission.
Thank you. Do you have a second? Thank you, Dr. Toth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, this is a denial. I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors deny the late application received by the grant and aid for $5,000 in 2026 to the Port Alberni Shelter Society. Seconded by Director Roth. Oh, sorry. I said 50. I said a lot more. Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you. Any further comments? It's late. Yeah. Any further comments? Okay. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, and then the last item here are more denials. That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors deny a grant and aid in 2026 for the following organizations: $10,000 to West Coast Aquatic, $23,000 to Sprout Lake Community Association for a standby generator, $48,000 or $48,051 to the Beaver Creek Community Club, and $5,000 to the BC Wildlife Federation. Seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? All those in favor? All opposed? Your motion carried. Okay. That is it. Thank you, everyone. Shane's not done though. That brings us to our next request for decision regarding bylaw F1174-1. It looks like a bunch of amendments. Please go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So this is a proposed budget amendment for the Banfield and Sprout Lake fire protection budgets. The Banfield Fire Service Amendment proposes the addition of a West Side transport vehicle. The desired vehicle would be a utility task vehicle capable of transporting up to 3 first responders and a patient. The expected cost is $50,000, which is inclusive of any retrofitting that would be required. There's no expected changes to the current year or future year taxation amounts, and it flows through the capital budget. The Sprout Lake Fire Protection Amendments include 2 items, one being the addition of a new printer at the Harold Bishop Fire Hall. This was originally included in the operating budget But due to costs and our capital asset policy, what we have done is we have removed it from the operating budget and transitioned it down to the capital budget. The second being the addition of a pump and roll nozzle attachment, which would be attached to the truck number 43 replacement, which is currently being completed by Hub. It will provide a more versatile fire service capacity and additional support, as well as allow Sprout Lake to respond to BC wildfire requests. The expected cost is around $32,000, and again, there's no expected changes to the current year or future year taxation amounts. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Director Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm completely in support of the fire department's request for a west side transport vehicle. But I am wondering why the request for decision is not broken out into two separate requests or two separate bylaws, given the fact that one is for Banfield and one is for Sprout Lake.
I think it's because if there are any changes that were necessary, they could be made within the same bylaw, because we'd have to use an amending motion anyway. So it should be okay. But point taken, we could do that in the future too. Is that sufficient, Director Beckett?
Yes, it is. And if that's the case, I'm happy to move the motion and open it up for any other discussion, whatever the chair would like.
That's perfect. First reading and then making changes is the way we're supposed to do it. So yeah.
That the Alberni, so I'll make the motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors gives first reading to the bylaw cited as bylaw F1174-1 2026 to the 2030 Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan Amendment.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Cote. Comments? Does anybody have comments? Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you for that. I'm reading this about the pump and roll nozzle. I have to assume it's going to be a pump and roll for the pumper, and then a nozzle for separate and remote control. That's the only way it's going to work. And I was wondering why they didn't put the pump and roll into their specs before they bought it, because aftermarket, like we're doing now, is they're putting it in halfway through the bill, that by the sounds of it, which is more expensive. I'm not against it. I'm just wondering, is there a remote control nozzle and a pump and roll feature?
I am not at all equipped to answer that question, Shane.
Nor am I to a very deep level. But what I can speak to is when this project was initially scoped, it was scoped a couple of years ago. And as such, we were just developing our procurement policy. So in terms of the addition in that initial build, we have been growing that knowledge and procurement base within our organization, where now I feel like we are able to scope those items in. So I can't speak directly to why it wasn't included initially. It was identified by our Sprout Lake Fire Chief, as well as Hub, who is building the truck as an additional benefit, as well as last year, Sprout Lake did have the opportunity to respond to quite a few BC wildfire requests, in which we do receive funding, and that funding does go directly to the fire hall, which either is rolled over to surplus or can't fund that service. Again, which in the identification of this, it's my understanding that they will be able to respond more and in essence give their volunteers more training opportunities and the option to produce revenue for the service as well.
Thank you. Daniel, Chai?
I'll add to that as well. I do know that during the budget process this year, there was a lot going on. And when it came to the fire departments, I do believe there was one or two emails that our past CFO might have missed. And so with the fire chiefs, as we were looking at this, they brought it forward and said, I'm sure it was in the budget. And they sure did communicate it. It just was not in the final approved budget. So the solution was to bring it back forward as an amendment. And that's why there are no tax implications either. So the numbers were right, but the listing was slightly off. And thus, this could have been housekeeping, but procedurally and properly, because we are audited, we want to make sure everything aligns properly.
I think Director Sparrow is asking if we're buying the right things. Is that what you're actually asking?
Well, no, it should have been done at the beginning of the process when you're building a truck, because if you want to do pump and roll, the PTO comes off the flywheel aspect, whereas you're doing a stationary when it comes off the back of the transmission. Something I know differently. So yes, when you're doing this in $30,000 because it wasn't spec'd. properly and it's a little more cost now, but I'm not disagreeing with what you're doing. I'm just saying there's a better way of doing it.
Should not have happened.
Yes.
Point taken. Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. I am aware of this. I did have a conversation with the fire chief and approved. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Cote. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of first reading? Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, move second.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Cote. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, move third.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Cote. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw cited as bylaw F1174-1 2026 to the 2030 Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. All right, that brings us to item C. This is Cynthia for our UBCM, AGM, and convention resolution and meeting requests. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So this is a follow-up report from the report that was considered at the May 27th meeting. So we did have one resolution that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors submit a meeting request to Minister Krieger, Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General regarding increased funding for BC Victim Services at the 2026 UBCM AGM and Convention. And this was a result of a recommendation that came out of the grant and aid process. And so there's that meeting request. And then for resolutions, although members are encouraged to submit first to the area associations, members also have the opportunity to submit any resolutions that weren't considered at ABICC by June 15th. So there were the two resolutions that were submitted to the ABICC that are listed there. And that is regarding the Hercules fleet, as well as the short-term rentals on ALR land. And then also on the second page of the report, just listed all of the ministry meeting requests and hoping that we can confirm that those are all captured. And then we will also be required to list the prioritize each of the meeting requests with in those. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Dr. Roth, please go ahead.
For the motion, can we change instead of saying increased funding for BC Victim Services to increased funding for police-based victim services? Because there are other victim services programs, and being the one that's related to the ACRD budget is the police-based victim services, and they're more likely to approve it because it would mean less money out of their pocket too.
Okay.
I'll make the motion if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
That the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors submit a meeting request to Minister Krieger, Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General regarding increased funding for police-based victim services at the 2026 UBCM AGM and Convention.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Toth. Comments, Dr. Steer, please go ahead.
Sorry, I had a comment, not on this. Sorry, I had my hand up to comment on the agenda item.
Okay. Any further comments on this motion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Any input on the meetings? Go ahead, Dr. Steer.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Yeah, and thank you. I apologize for not being at the May 27th meeting. My alternate Mayor Law was there, and I did give instruction around the Minister Bonawyn Ma, the Minister of Infrastructure, around the Tofino General Hospital, and wanted to extend the invitation out to District of Tofino and District of Ucluelet and West Coast Indigenous leaders. I was unsure if Mayor Law had listed the leaders, but I made the assumption that it would be from, Uclueletha all the way up to Heshquit. And I just wanted to make sure that that was understood. I just saw that it was West Coast Indigenous leaders, and I didn't know if it had been specified. But I'm just going to make that assumption. But if I can give details as to what that meant by West Coast Indigenous leaders.
My memory states that it was kind of very inclusive of the entire area, so I think we're okay there. Yeah. Director Sparrow and Director Cote.
Well, thank you for that. Are we still looking at putting things forward for the UBCM? Because what I was looking for is like the airports, what we can do, if we have to go through ADICC first or not. And the reason being is our airport's starting to get traction now. We're starting to build things out there, but I find some of the things we can do are restrictive out there and what we can actually put out there to gain revenue. So can we meet with one of the ministers in charge of the airports and see if we can uplift some of the restrictions on there so we can put more things out there to get more revenue and build the airport quicker? Is that a possibility?
I think that's very timely given the letter that was sent to JEG with it. Walrus. Okay. Okay. Water, lands, and resource stewardship. So I think that might be the one we want to meet with. Yeah. Okay. Director Solda on this part.
No, I just have a correction on one of your ministers who is no longer that minister.
Yeah, I think we have the same correction.
Okay.
We'll get there. Okay. Director Sparrow, would you like to make that a motion just so we officially add it?
Sure.
Okay. So that we attempt to meet with the Water, Lands, Resource Stewardship Ministry regarding the airport policy.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. Seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Please go ahead.
Just to help the board in that as well. On the 24th, Mike Erg will be presenting a report that does a deeper dive on the impacts of the airport policy on setting barriers around our ability to further develop the airport. So it'll be a good prelude to what you're saying today.
Thank you. Tanya, did you have a supplemental? I saw your camera come. No? Okay. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Okay. I think Director Solda wants to change George Anderson to somebody else. Okay. So whoever the person responsible for transit is going to be, or is already, instead of George, because he's been moved to energy, I believe. Green energy? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's just correction. Yeah, Dr. Cote.
Thank you. I know we are already seeing Ministry of Transportation, but it occurs to me that I've brought forward the motion regarding the speed limits on rural roads is 80 kilometers unless otherwise posted. I think that they should all be 50 kilometers. So I wouldn't mind talking with someone regarding that. And just want to point out that even though we request these appointments, we not necessarily will be awarded them. And for the people in the audience, I'd like them to know that there is a request to the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs regarding incorporation laws. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? We can add the rural conversation to the Minister Farnsworth request. We can just add it as a topic. Well, it can be a separate one though, because we can take a staff one for that too. Yeah, yeah. Ministers? Okay, it'll still be a way to do it. It's policy, so it'll be something that'll be alive. Okay. I like Mike. Any further comments? Okay. Do we have to have a motion to confirm these, or is it all okay?
No, you have the resolutions. I'm just looking for direction on how it will be decided on the prioritization list, because we do need to include that in our submission to the ministry for our meeting requests.
Okay. So in regards to the priorities of these conversations, I think the order in which it's presented is okay, except for incorporation, which I would move up just after wildfires. I think that would be the only one. Does it need to be a motion? No? Okay. Then I think we're okay. All right, moving on. That brings us to the next item, which is item D, which is waste composition audits, contract award. Exciting. Thank you, Tanya. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. The item for consideration is award of the waste composition audit contract to Dillon Consulting in the amount of $76,500. The waste audit is an approved item in the 2026 financial plan. The audit will explore the sources, the types, and the amounts of waste materials that are being disposed of throughout ACRD. The audit will support the solid waste management plan update, inform the development of new solid waste programs, and also identify areas of improvement for existing programs to increase waste diversion across ACRD communities and sectors. The waste audit analytics will provide information to help understand and better address waste within the ACRD region, including commercial waste, seasonal waste generation, multifamily waste, and waste from remote areas such as Bamfield. There were 3 submissions in response to the request for proposals, and the submittals were ranked based on experience and qualifications, references, project understanding and proposal, quality, approach and schedule, social procurement, and price. Dillon Consulting ranked highest and is recommended for the work. Thanks. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Dr. Steer, please go ahead.
Yeah, if there were no questions, I'd like to make the motion. Are we going to still make the motion anyways? That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award the waste composition audits contract to Dillon Consulting Limited in the amount of $76,500, excluding GST.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Silda. Any further comments? Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Question to staff. Will this be at all looking at small business waste, recycling, etc.? Because it seems.
Sorry, I think it's just restricted to residential. Tanya, do you know the answer?
We actually are looking at ICI commercial waste, so maybe not business specific based on size, but certainly we're looking at that sector in general.
Okay, tackling institutional and industrial. That's so good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right. It'll be good to have an actual picture of what that looks like. Yeah. Anything audit, really. Up is the Audit Association's Sprout Lake request. Alex.
Thank you. Through the chair, this is a request from the Regatta Association for an exemption from the provisions of the Sprout Lake noise bylaw to allow for the annual Lightning on the Lake regatta event. The event will take place on the weekend over 2 days on July 11th and 12th, with setup and testing to take place on the Friday, July 10th. The noise bylaw exemption would run from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on those days, and the association has committed to letting the residents on the lake know with some flyers and posters on the mailboxes. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Dr. Cote?
Thank you. I would move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors issue a noise exemption as per Section 7 of the Sprout Lake Noise Control Bylaw number R1024 for July 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2026 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily to the Alberni Valley Regatta Association.
Thank you. Seconded by. Thank you, Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. That brings us into planning matters under Section 12. Indigenous and municipal directors, please stick around for the purposes of quorum, but we'll go right into electoral area directors. 12.1A is a request for decision regarding a Sprout Lake item. It's not nothing, it's the OCP. So let's get into it. I would note that the motions start on page 6, and they are not the underlined ones. Those are just links. So that had to be explained to me. But please go ahead, Dr. Cote. I think we should start with the motions and then go.
You want to start with the motions?
Yeah.
Okay, the move that the Regional District of Alberni Claycourt Regional District D Official Community Plan Bylaw number P1540 2026 be read a first time.
And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Okay, open up for discussion. I think it was Director Roth and then Director Toth. Please go ahead.
Could I please have a recorded vote?
Yep, we can do that. Any, Director Toth, please go ahead.
Listening to all the comments and whatnot, I feel that there is a huge disconnect between all parties. And I'm not convinced that the transparency has been met between all parties. And I just feel that there is a little bit of frustration in the district. And yeah, I just thought I would just bring that up.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, Director Sparrow and then, yeah, and then Director Cote.
Thank you for that. I know people in the audience feel that once we do first reading, we're doing the chiseling in the stone, as it were, for the amendment, and we're not. What we're doing is actually opening up for discussion. I will say that Cherry Creek has gone through this process, and we're at third reading. And we're going to go through the process again, because at that time, the community finally said that, no, they didn't like it at all. So there is times to change things still. It isn't the final thing. It sounds like all the things ahead of us, it is the final thing. It's not. It's the beginning of discussion. You have the opportunity now to actually dig in your heels and do something. It's been 15 months. In 15 months, they should have engaged in enough, I think, to be able to come to the first reading. And then there still is time after this. And if they do want to pause it, that's fine. I don't know if we can pause it. I'll ask Alex and the crew. Can we pause it enough, put it behind Cherry Creek and hold it for 3 years and without ruining everything? Because, you know, that is also an option, because right now I'm being held back on what I would like to do at Cherry Creek because I'm waiting for the other ones ahead of me. So if they want to pause it for 3 years and not ruin all they're doing, I'm also good with that because I want to keep moving to Cherry Creek. Thank you.
Thank you for that. No. At least that's where I'm coming from. Okay, so before we get to Director Roth, I'd like to go to Director Cote and then give staff the opportunity to potentially answer any questions that were asked during the public input period. But I wanted the directors to be able to add their questions too. So, Director Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. So through the chair to staff, so there's a number of reading or recommendations here. Should I stop here and ask for consideration of more consultation with the community and with the First Nation that is planned already for First Nation? Should I stop there and then we can read these after that? Thank you.
So the way that it can work is that we can do first reading and then add engagement after that, right? Then nothing stops you from doing that. My understanding of the rest of these motions don't really impact that process as well, because the only thing we're doing here is first reading. Second reading is in the future. Third reading is even further away.
So the way I see it is this is a pinpoint to start. This is what the staff have heard from the community over the last year and a half, and it's a starting point. So going from there, I absolutely hear my community that they want more consultation, but I think that it needs to fit into the process. That's my take on it, and recommendations from staff for all the work that's been done. They have really gotten a lot of the OCP correct, in my opinion. There's a few things that need to be tweaked, and I think that that's fair. So that's where I'd like to start. Thanks.
Yeah, I can confirm that's my understanding of the process as well. So what we should do after we do these ones is that we resolve that you will have a motion at our next meeting with a timeline of the extra engagements you'd like to do or something. Go ahead, Daniel.
You can actually do that motion today, and so you know what I would recommend at that time. We'll see how this first vote goes, but ultimately, or regardless how this first vote goes, likely working with you, working with the director for Sprout Lake, to ensure that the next phase includes outreach specific to, but not limited to Shot First Nation and the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association in order to resolve any gaps that exist in the existing first draft.
Don't let me go to 12.1B until we do that, if you'd like to. Yeah. And it's not one or done. You can add things at our next meeting too. Okay, so staff, a bunch of things were asked, a bunch of statements were made during the public input period. I have a few things too that I noted, so if it's not covered, I'll probably add them in too. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond and explain the underlying logic to the process. So please go ahead.
Through the chair, appreciate the opportunity because I think that is important. The community residents are engaged. They took the time out of their day to be here, and we're super grateful for that. This is the community that we want to speak to. So I did want the opportunity to address some things, and recognizing the comment from Harley Wiley about a clear commitment to have true engagement with Shot Chief and Council on the project, and we do appreciate the comments and look forward to meeting with the Chief and Council next week on Thursday, recognizing the importance of that discussion for the board's process, and also to continue the building upon the conversations that we've had already on the project. Colin McClement had asked about how did we order the core policies as we had changed the order of the OCP from the draft to the one that's presented today. That's based on communication and feedback that was received from the public. The reconciliation section was moved following feedback. We heard from the community that noted a feeling that reconciliation was the principal focus of the OCP, given that it was listed first in that list of 8 core policies. So we have reordered and clarified wording to ensure that the OCP meets with the board's priority to work in partnership with and in alignment with First Nations within the region, but also clarifies that the residents and the property owners of Sprout Lake are front and center on the vision and goals and objectives and direction for their community. So we've reordered the core policies. We've also reworded some of the policies within that to put more of a focus on Sprout Lake residents and property owners, and to ensure that they have a seat at the table in the direction of their community. The remaining core policies are listed in no particular order, so there's no method to that there. Colin and Norm Cardinal had asked about the changes that were made and whether they've put the time into surveying Sprout Lake Property Owner Association members and have held some town hall meetings and had some feedback, and they want to know where that is in our plans. So we do have a table of changes that was produced following feedback received on the vision and goals that was communicated with the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association. That included reasons for incorporating updates or not, where appropriate, and we're happy to make that matrix of changes available to the public. We're also happy to produce something that shows the changes that were made over the last 2 months since the first draft was made available to the public, and staff can commit to making that available ahead of a question and answer period and an open house held prior to the public hearing. And I'll add some comments on that in a second here as well. Colin and Penny Paul had asked about how do we compile our data, and their data talked about a heavier support for STRs than what ours our survey found. So the data that we've presented in detail in the Phase 4 engagement summary included in the report is based on the questions that we asked in our engagement, and that's what we heard. The survey results have been shared in the board agenda, as I mentioned, but the survey results and the proposed changes that have come from the Sprout Lake Property Owners Association-led engagements have been shared with staff, but with a lack of clarity and understanding, I think, that we want to resolve in meeting directly with the Property Owners Association in the coming weeks. And I want to make that offer again, that we are happy and ready and willing to meet either in person or online with the association board of directors, or to participate in a public event over the next month as well. Penny Paul had mentioned meaningful consultation and discussion can only begin once a document is produced. So I would say that the vision and goals that have been included in this OCP were received by the board in October 2025. First draft of the OCP was released publicly to the Sprout Lake APC at the beginning of April and advertised widely, beginning with the agency pre-referral process on April 23rd, the publication of the online questionnaire on April 27th, and sandwich boards going in the community at the time, and then at the May 4th in-person open house that was held at the community hall. So we have advertised that widely, and I agree that meaningful consultation and discussion can happen after first reading, and that's where we open up the document that we have before us today. And then the last one I want to comment was Sabrina Zimmerman, had mentioned the incorporation study and how that is important to the community, and there's no word of it in the OCP. So I would recognize that the direction provided was to proceed with the OCP update first, prior to moving forward with the incorporation study. Well, I also recognize the importance of the incorporation study to the community. We have identified that the OCP is does not make reference to that at this time. So this is something that absolutely can be added, and staff will be recommending that we do add a policy relating to that ahead of the public hearing. And I think that's a good example of how policy wording and the key pieces in the OCP can be incorporated based on the community feedback we receive ahead of and ultimately during the public hearing that will be held. So happy to have more of those conversations, and we are very proud of the community-driven level of engagement that our staff have been able to lead with the Sprout Lake residents and everything on this project to date, and also recognize that, as I mentioned, first reading puts the OCP bylaw on the table and opens it up for a detailed review with the community leading up to the public hearing. At the staff level, we can commit to participating in the discussion with the Sechelt Chief of Council, which is organized already. We can also commit to participating or leading a question and answer period and an open house in the community within the next month that will allow an opportunity for us to lay out the OCP text and maps on the table and get some feedback on some changes that can be incorporated ahead of the public hearing. The more we know ahead of the public hearing, the better, I think, and that will allow the board to make a more informed decision. We would love for the Property Owners Association to be at that table and to help us in raising awareness of the plan within the community and helping us get to the point where we can see more consensus within the community and everybody sees their vision within the document. We did meet with the Property Owners Association in September 2025, initially to understand their viewpoints, but also to ask that they help us in keeping residents informed about the process and involved in the project. So we are looking for partnership there, and happy to meet with the association in the coming weeks and be a part of a public event. So I would recommend that that be included after first reading and prior to public hearing. As we've heard already, the public input process continues with the public hearing, and we do have, if the board proceeds with first reading today, we do have a date set aside in the second week of July to do that. The ACRD would be advertising that widely within the community and hosting an open house ahead of the public hearing as well, to allow people to come in early, ask their questions of staff, and have things clarified if need be. I would recognize that we also have the OCP bylaw referral process that would be formalized after first reading. So we did a pre-referral on April 23rd. And then once the bylaw receives first reading, we would send it out to those agencies and First Nations again, and build upon the comments we've received already, or seek comments where we haven't had a chance to at this point. So given the additional formal input process that the public hearing brings, and the continued opportunity for the community to meet with ACRD staff and have their viewpoints heard in consideration of the updated OCP and the changes that we can bring forward after first reading, we do recommend that the board proceed with first reading today, and that the public hearing process be initiated, and happy to answer any more questions.
Dr. Roth, please go ahead. And then we'll go to Director Beckett.
Yeah, I just wanted to point something out in the agenda. if you go to 11B, request for decision, you'll see that the motions were, the first reading was done, then the second reading was done, then the third reading was done, and then it was adopted all within a minute. So I think that's what's in people's mind and why there's so much mistrust, is because it can be done just like that, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know, we need to make some changes, or I don't know, all readings done at once can happen and does happen. So it builds mistrust. Thank you.
It can, yeah. That's a difference between regular bylaws that regional districts can pass and OCP processes. They're mandated, so there are separations of time
But
that are
people
required.
don't know that.
Yeah, that's true. And that is something that we can do. And I will say that part of the mistrust is misplaced because people can look up these rules.
Yeah, but they don't even know where to look sometimes.
Google. Okay. Thank you. Dr. Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you. Really good discussion. I'm looking for a little bit of clarification because staff have done a lot of work. We do need to keep the process moving without jeopardizing, community trust in the process. What I've heard is that if we were to pass the motion that this bylaw be read a first time prior to going to the public event, staff working with Director Cote would create a schedule that a public schedule that would include meeting with the appropriate First Nation representatives as well as the Property Owners Association to address or attempt to address some of their concerns. Is that what I heard? Is that the process that Director Cote would agree to and staff agree to? Because I think that addresses some of the concerns, keeps it moving forward, and hopefully puts to bed whatever issues need to be put to bed. I'll stop there. Thank you.
If we're talking about intent, I think it starts with Director Cote first. So please go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I live in this community and I don't like rules either. So looking at from my perspective, knowing what I know, what's needed from the province and how everybody thinks water quality should be number one. I think that a lot of the work that's in the OCP addresses a lot of what is needed. I want to support my community. Believe me, I hear them and I want to do the right thing, and I want us to have the right OCP, right recommendations coming forward, hearing what the community wants. Giving a first reading, I think, is that starting point, and having more consultation that's built in right now is where I think that we need to go. And as a community leader, I really highly recommend that this is the way that we need to move forward. I really dislike the word distrust. I don't like making that accusation or that assumption that people distrust the process. It is the process. There's different ways to interpret it, but this is so important. We're going by the letter, and we need to add more consultation in, but I see that that's the proper way to move this forward. I don't want to stall out so that just because people say pause, there wasn't enough, in my opinion, to completely stall this process going forward. I really believe that staff have done a great job. I think that the recommendations that are coming forward, we can work with. And I want to hear what the community wants to do with a policy that's coming forward that actually identifies different things so that we could actually tweak them and work with them. That good?
Yeah, that's well said, Director Cote. And I think I'll repeat it. I think this is the right way to do it because, as you point out, going by the letter of the law does provide enough space and time for everything that Sprout Lake residents and Sprout Lake owners and whatever the other associations are called, they will have time to provide their input. People often start with the solution they think is necessary to get what they want, but they don't understand that the time and space is already built into the process. So we don't have to go with the solution they want because it's already been put into the system. It's already been put into the process. It does exist. The problem now is going to be, how can you demonstrate that you're being responsive to whatever it is they want? Because I don't know what it is, but I'm not from Sprout Lake. So that's something where I think this is your time to shine in regards to being responsive, and you're totally doing that now. And you can do that now. So I'm sorry I don't know all of the different associations in your area, but it seems like you have the framework for engaging everyone.
Just like to point out that our first OCP that I was involved with back in 2005, we filled up Echo Center. There was a lot of angry people because the regional district had produced a OCP and they had no input. They've got a lot of input in this one. I would like to see an invitation to the community at whole. Also First Nations to attend, and anybody who has anything that they want to say. Property owners, have them all invited to a town hall meeting. I like rather to hear them as a community affairs engagement, and be able to have their input. So, but I would also like staff to have the opportunity to reach out and talk to individuals, so that when they do come to a community engagement, their staff are prepared to know what kind of answers to address. So if there could be a way that staff could receive comments now and get or work with groups that want to work with staff before that, I think there's even another step that we could add. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Cote. And are there any other comments? No? Okay. I wasn't sure you had your hand kind of up. Okay, like I said, once we hit first reading, it's still a Word document. It's not a PDF. It's not written in stone. Things can be changed. So this is the process that allows us to go.
One more question. Once it goes to public hearing, can we have another public hearing if there's changes that come back that are insurmountable? Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. That is built into the process. The board has control over each of those steps. And, I would highlight, in the last, when the 2014 OCP was developed, there were 2 public hearings that were held based on the feedback that was received. So it really depends on the feedback we get over the next month or so, and leading into the public hearing and at the public hearing. We can make changes. There's policy wording that you can change after a public hearing. You can't change use and density, but there are some policy additions that as we learn from the community over the next month and at the public hearing, we can add those things. But if it reaches a point where the changes are significant enough that it's worthy of another community discussion, then absolutely the staff recommendation would be to pause at that point, re-advertise, make some changes. We would bring some changes back to the board to consider a second reading, re-advertise a public hearing, and go back to the community again. The risk in that being that extends the process, of course, but we want the board to have control over that for sure.
Okay, I hate to do this. I have one more question. A public hearing can be multiple days, correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So the public hearing can be adjourned and reconvened at a future date. We do actually have a backup date planned for maybe I shouldn't have said that anywhere, but for the public, actually we don't, just kidding. No, absolutely. And you know, that is something that we need to make space for the entire community to have their say, and sometimes that can result in long nights. Which is fine. That's what we're there for. There is a public hearing process that allows people to speak and bring new information in, and have all of their correspondence submitted. And that's really the avenue that we want to take there. And if it reaches a point where it's late at night, it'll ultimately be up to the chair to decide whether to reconvene at a different location.
Nanaimo did 3 days on a trail, so that we have a lot of tools available, pending our stamina, I suppose. So with that in mind, this is for first reading. It's going to be a recorded vote, so please leave your hand up so I can say your name, and then you can put your hand down. Just use your physical hands on the screen, please. Yeah, but there's people online still. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, so we have Dr. Sparrow, Dr. Cote, Dr. Siga, Dr. Beckett. All opposed? Dr. Toth, Dr. Roth. I almost said Dr. Roth. Sorry. Okay, any further comments? I'll declare the motion carried. Thank you. And that brings us into the next items. Dr. Cote, do you just want to keep it rolling at this point? We have several motions after this. Alex, do you want to explain the purpose of the other motions as well?
Yes, happy to do that. So the motions that are recommended in here are to consider the bylaw in conjunction with the financial plan and with the solid waste management plan. Those are requirements of the Local Government Act that are laid out specifically. The requirements for what to include in an OCP and the process and the consultation requirements required in order to develop an OCP are also highlighted within the RFD. But yeah, the staff recommendation at this point would be that in staff's view, the OCP has been developed in conjunction with the recommendations of the financial plan and the solid waste management plan, and we ask that the board make those recommendations.
Okay, if you have any questions, please go ahead though.
Just wondering why I would, is there a reason why I need to do that today and it couldn't be put off until after consultation?
The Local Government Act lays out when you do it, and it's specifically right after first reading, and prior to the public hearing.
Okay, so this won't by any means affect anything or any changes that we want to make in the future by adopting the financial plan or solid waste.
Through the chair, if I may. No, absolutely. I don't, it won't impact any additional consultation. I would ask that the board consider a separate resolution that would direct staff to do the additional consultation that we've talked about. That's meeting with First Nations, meeting with the Property Owners Association and community associations where appropriate, and making ourselves available for a community open house to discuss the OCP.
Yeah, I slotted that in right before we get to B. It'll be the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll move that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors consider Area D official community plan bylaw number P1540 2026 in conjunction with the ACRD 2026-2030 financial plan.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments? See none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried.
I'll move that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors consider Area D official community plan bylaw number P1540 2026 in conjunction with the ACRD solid waste management plan bylaw number R1020.
Seconded by, thank you, Dr. Sparrow. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
This is where I would add the extra consultation before we move public hearing. Okay, well, the consultation that we discussed, I would like to move that the board approve consultation with First Nations, Sprout Lake Property Owners Association, other community organizations, and hold a public meeting.
Okay.
Is that enough?
Yep. So as long as we're
Okay.
clear that public meeting is not the same as public hearing.
Yes.
So people, there's going to be back and forth and discussions.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just for certainty, just so that Penny can say, I moved this at the board and it is happening. Yeah. Dr. Roth, go ahead. Or wait, seconded by Dr. Sparrow. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Roth.
When you talk about First Nations consultation, I mean, there's consultation and then there's consultation. So we're talking about an area that's within Tishat and perhaps Hukuchesset territory. So what type of consultation are you talking about?
Small C consultation. Yeah. So local governments are not required to consult, but it is best practice if they do. But the province can always overrule that consultation because municipalities and regional districts are children of the province, and the province can overrule them whenever they want.
Okay, thank you.
Which sucks, but
I'd like to point out that there was a request for a meeting with Tishat Council, and it didn't happen. But there will be another one coming, so next week. So we'll be fulfilling that obligation or opportunity, and making this open for community consultation to extend that to the community, I think is definitely fulfilling what the request is when it gives that opportunity for consultation and an in-depth question answer on a one-to-one basis, I think is where we need to go.
it's important that we're choosing to do that because we don't have to, but we should. And this is us doing what we should. So that's good. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? This is for engagement and consultation with a small C and all that sort of stuff. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion carried. And then the public hearing.
Okay, I'll move that the public hearing for bylaw P1540 2026 be delegated to the Director of Electoral Area D, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district after consultation.
Thank you. Any, seconded by Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'd just like to add to that this is the process, and it can take as long as it needs to. We'd like to move it along, but we're not rushing it through. We want to do it right. We want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. This is the opportunity for the community to voice their opinion, and this is the process. Thank you.
Dr. Toth, go ahead, and then Dr. Ross.
Yeah, I'm a little sad because of the fact that there is such a huge disconnect between you and the community. And from what I have heard is that there's a lot of disconnect between the staff and what the community wants. And so I just hope that you get a lot of people out there to hopefully support you and to come up with a common goal. I just think that needs to be done.
Okay. I'll address that. Dr. Ross, go ahead.
I would like to know if there is a place where I can find a copy of the process. You know, it should be clearly laid out and with timelines and.
We can have Alex send you a link.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so everyone's entitled to their opinions. Whether and to what degree there is a disconnect between the community or not remains to be seen. It will be subject to whether and to what degree Director Cote can help preside over the interactions between the community and herself in the review of the draft of first reading of the OCP and incorporating any changes that may be coming forward. This is not necessarily a disconnect between the staff and the people, or the director and the people, but rather a disconnect between the people and their understanding of the process, which is a completely different thing. And so that's my assessment. And what I think we need to do is for people to take a chance at actually engaging with the process, realizing that Director Cote and the staff are going to be responsive to any input that may be necessary about the plan itself, not the process. The process doesn't change because there's enough space and time in the process to do the work. I'll say that again. There is enough time and space in the process to do the actual work of developing the OCP for the community. That's the work, not grousing about a process that is already established in provincial law. That's not our purview. So I want people to remember that as we move forward. This is about whether or not the plan is going to be put together in a way that's acceptable to the community, not the way in which it's put together. That's not decided upon by us. That's decided upon by a provincial process. Okay, so with that in mind, that brings us to the next agenda item, which actually has to do with Long Beach. So thanks for sticking around, Director Siga. And Alex, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is an application to rezone the property located at 15 Sutton Road in the Port Alban area in Long Beach. The application would rezone the property from small holdings A1 district to the cottage residential RC2 district to facilitate development of up to 4 cottages for short-term rental and or seasonal worker accommodation. The rezoning was first considered by the board in March 2024 when the board confirmed that adoption of the rezoning would be subject to confirmation from a registered on-site wastewater practitioner that the property can accommodate sewage disposal for hosting up to 4 cottages, as well as subject to support from the Ucluelet government, whose treaty lands border the subject property to the north and the east. The rezoning bylaw was given 3 readings at the time in May 2024. Following the public input process, as part of the referral process, staff engaged with the Ucluelet government and held discussions on the potential impacts of the development. Following the agency referral response from Island Health and their review of the septic design and a period during which the application was put on hold by the property owners, staff re-engaged with the Ucluelet government, who completed their review and have now provided a letter of support dated June 1st of this year. The response, which is included in the agenda package for your review, noted that servicing, water, and watershed considerations would be addressed through applicable regulatory and permitting processes, and noted that they are not aware of any archaeological heritage on the property, with the understanding that archaeological heritage is regulated under the Heritage Conservation Act. So at this time, given the satisfaction of the agency referral responses and the conditions of adoption for the rezoning established by the board, staff's opinion is that the conditions have been met, and we do recommend that the board adopt bylaw P 1495. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Siga, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, I have 2 questions about this. Since this was first put forward, it's come to my attention that the road conditions are problematic, and I'd like to clarify whether this is an issue, like whose responsibility that road is. And I'd also like to find out just to give a bit of background on that. I was over there, somebody was asking about public access to properties where there is actual right-of-ways. And as I was standing at the corner of Sutton Road and Port Albion Road, somebody came out of Sutton Road, obviously going to work on an e-bike, and a gravel truck came from Ucluelet, and it was a dangerous situation. So I would like to ask through the chair, for a little bit of consideration on road and bike accessibility, because obviously if tourists are involved, this could put ACRD at risk. And the other thing is, when we change that zoning, is there an increase in taxation to account for the additional tourist services, as in the extra access and garbage? Just those two items before I present this. Thanks.
Through the chair, thank you, Director Siga. Those are great questions. I will. So the Ministry of Transportation and Transit is the owner and maintainer of Sutton Road. That is a public road right away. The ministry was included in the referral process that was completed as part of this application. They recommended that they had no concerns, noting that it's outside of a controlled access highway buffer and would have minimal impact in their response. But they also note that a commercial access permit may be required at the time of development, and access must meet construction standards. So this would be one that, prior to the issuance of a building permit on a rental cottage, we would be engaging with the Ministry of Transportation to ensure that if there is any access requirements that the applicants and the developers need to meet, that they do so, and that a commercial access permit is issued from the ministry. That is a typical process that we would look at the development stage. On the overall road maintenance as a whole, I think that that is something that we can always relay to Main Road, who's the contractor who manages and maintains the roads out there, and the minister as well. We do have some contacts there, and if you'd like us to do that, just let me know. Happy to do that. With respect to the taxation, so if there's new development on the site, if they built the cottages, they would be getting building permits for them, and then that increase in the assessed value would be relayed back to BC Assessment to recognize that the new development at the site would be a higher value, and there would be increased revenue from that. Once again, the regional district's not responsible for that. That would be the BC Taxation Authority and BC Assessment. But yeah, that would be the process, and I would expect that the value of the property would go up.
Does that help, Dr. Siga?
Through the chair, yeah, just I would like it put forward to the Ministry of Transportation what our liability is when we are offering tourist accommodations to an area where roads do not support two-way traffic and bicycles. I just want to be clear that we're not liable. It's actually MOT's issue.
Yes, through the chair, that's a great concern to raise, I think, and absolutely we can communicate that with the ministry. I will highlight, we do have other cottage residential zoning in that area, and we've issued temporary use permits for short-term rentals as well. So, the responsibility and the liability on road maintenance is on the ministry, but we do play a role in that as the ACRD does control land uses on private property. So happy to relay those concerns and have the conversation with the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And given that affirmation, I would like to move that bylaw P1495, Regional District of Alberta-Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be adopted.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Beckett. Any further comments? For whatever reason, this reminds me of all those single lane roads in Britain and how they handle them. Yeah. Anyway, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Okay. That brings us to item C, which is an item for Sprout Lake. Please go ahead, Alex.
Thank you very much. This is a development variance application for a property located at 10716 Taylor Run Drive in the Sprout Lake area. Variance would allow for an increase to the maximum allowable height of an accessory building in the RA1 zone from 4.75 meters to 5.8 meters at the proposed 3-meter side yard setback. The applicants intend to construct a 2-story, 720 square foot detached garage structure. The Sprout Lake Advisory Planning Commission considered the application at their May 26th meeting, and the APC passed a motion to support the variance application as presented. If the board proceeds with the consideration of the variance, the next step would be the neighbor notification. And we would be gathering community input on the variance to be considered prior to the final decision. At this point, staff recommend that the board proceed with that first consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Cote?
Okay, I would move that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors consider issuance of development variance permit DVD 25011, subject to neighboring properties being notified as per the Local Government Act 499.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Let's keep moving. Another one for Sprout. Oh, they're all for Sprout Lake. Please keep going.
They're always for Spirit Lake. This is another development variance application relating to height. This one for 19140 Pacific Rim Highway on Taylor Arm and Spirit Lake. The applicants intend to build a 22 by 22 foot two-vehicle garage with an attic truss roof that would include a home office and a studio space above. So the variance that's requested would allow for an increase in the height from 3.8 meters to 7.8 meters at a 1.2 meter side yard setback. That's highlighted in the plan that's included in the package. Spirit Lake Advisory Planning Commission considered this application at their May 26th meeting as well, where they passed a motion to support it as presented. Again, the next step would be the neighbor notification process, and we do understand that the applicant has been in communication with the direct neighbor located to the west in the design of the structure to mitigate any concerns. So if the variance proceeds with the building permit process, there would be a development permit requirement for riparian area guidelines, and we would be considering it for a steep slope hazard in that area as well. But at this time, staff do recommend that the board proceed with consideration of variance and that any public correspondence be brought back to the next meeting.
I move that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors consider issuance of development variance permit DVD 26003, subject to neighboring notification as per Local Government Act 499.
Thank you. Do a seconder. Thank you, Director Sparrow. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Please continue.
Thank you. This is another height variance in the Spirit Lake area. So this one would be for a strata property located at 6381 Salal Road. The applicants intend to build a 780 square foot two-vehicle garage at the rear of their property. The variance would allow for an increase in the maximum allowable height of an accessory structure in that RA1 district from 3.6 meters to 4.9 meters for an overall increase of 1.2 meters or 4 feet. So from 12 feet to 16 feet. The Spirit Lake APC again considered this application at their last meeting, and they did pass a motion of support. The next step would be the neighbor notification process again, and I would highlight in this case the applicant has provided 6 letters of support already from all the neighbors, including from the upland property that would be most impacted. So staff at this point recommend that the board proceed with the neighbor notification process for this variance. Thank you.
I'll move that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors consider issuance of development variance permit DVD 26004, subject to neighbor notification as per Local Government Act 499.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. And lastly, the finishing of DB. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. One last variance in Spirit Lake, this one for 8925 Faber Road. This variance application was first considered by the board at the May 13th meeting, where the board directed that the public input process proceed. The variance would reduce the side yard setback in this case for a new house to be built from 4.6 meters down to 2.7 meters from the south side yard line to align with the detached garage that was built in 2010. A notice to owners and residents within 100 meters was mailed on May 22nd. There was one letter received that's included in your agenda, and that letter expresses support for the application. At this time, staff do recommend that the board issue the development variance to allow the applicants to proceed with their building permit. Thank you.
I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors issue development variance permit DVD 26002.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Director Toth. Any further comments? All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, that's it for planning. Thank you, everyone. We're into reports now. 13.1, staff reports. Would anyone like to pull anything out of staff reports, including staff? I'm not seeing. No? Was there anything? No?
I think we're good. I think the much anticipated Sophie report is actually at the end of the month. Shane? Not in this one.
The chair would like to note Shane has given the thumbs up to that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, can we have a motion to receive the staff reports? Thank you, Dr. Cote, Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Member reports. Does anyone have any member reports? Dr. Haggard, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sure everybody has heard the very exciting news, but yesterday the city of Port Alberni was named HTV's Hometown Makeover Canada, which is very exciting. And the only thing that I know is there's announcement yesterday and they started filming today. They'll be going until the end of August and the show will air this fall. So the only thing that I know for sure that they're going to be working on is they're going to be doing some refurbishment of Harbor Key, which is something that I've wanted for the last 7.5 years. So I'm excited that's finally going to be done. So, and Mayor Manions has talked to previous mayors of previous that were named communities that were named hometown makeovers. And they said, be prepared. Visitors to your area really increases and tourism increases. And also as a result of that, you have an increase in investment and economic benefits to the community. So we should see some long-term benefits, and it's also going to be a reason for people to turn this way when they're going to the West Coast. So another benefit to this. So very exciting news. Looking forward to seeing the end results. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Huayed and potentially Bamfield, the turn left strategy is something that fits with us very well. Sorry, Tom. That being said, I walked down this afternoon to get a brisket sandwich because they're good. And I ran into one of the builders there, and he said that he was already involved in some of the B-roll shooting that was happening. So it's happening. It's happening already. So it's really exciting. Okay, is there anybody else? Dr. Solda, please go ahead.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback onto that, and going down there, there is, according to, don't read all of social media because there's storefronts that are open. So go in there and enjoy and watch what's going on. It's going to be really cool. If you haven't seen the show, go on the line on YouTube and Google it, and you'll be quite amazed by it. So there's a lot of positive things. And then the city's also kicking in some money to do their part of it to help refurbish that area. So it's a great start. Then next will be Argyle, and hopefully one day 3rd Avenue. So we're working on it, and we're chipping away. So that's exciting. But I do want to touch on the roundabout. The roundabout is amazing. The roundabout is going to update that whole area. And then we got the Clutessy there, which is the cities, and we're working with First Nation governments. So all that's going to kick in. It's just really exciting. There's so much in this community that's happening. And some people, according to if we read social media, say, oh, what's happening? But there is lots, and I'm really excited for where we're going. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Great, thank you. Are there any other member reports? Seeing none, I will say that as one of the host nations for the FIFA stuff that's going on, it's kicking off on Friday, and there is stuff online in regards to watching the World Cup as it unfolds. We can go to the Kinsman Club. I don't know what the other 2 C's are. I'm sorry. I think there's 3 or 4 C's. And from there, there will be plenty of things that are going on in and around the region to celebrate the World Cup going on. So, yeah, I think that's the only thing I'll add for now. Its by-election is going to be completed on Saturday. We'll know who our new member of council is going to be. So that'll be exciting. All right. Could we have a motion to receive the member reports? Thank you, Dr. Solda, seconded by Dr. Beckett. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, do we have any other business? I don't think we have any late items. Do we have any question period questions?
So there was something left in the question and answer for the Zoom, and it was from Penny Paul. Which one?
Yeah.
Okay. So to ask the directors how many of them have even read the last draft, directors are being asked to vote to pass a document for first reading that they have not even read. Yikes, this is not proper procedure.
So I would point out that not every director has to read it. I didn't read the history, but I looked through it. I don't think that's something that is necessarily anyone's purview except for the directors involved. So I don't know what to say to you, but either way, it feels like a bit of a personal attack. Director Sparrow?
That's a very presumptuous comment saying that we did not read it. Assume we did not read it when we actually did, or I actually did. So I don't like when people presume I do things and I don't do things. I use a little offensive, you probably noticed, but we read this stuff. We read lots because that's our job. If you don't like to read, you should never get this job. But it sounds like she's trying to put stuff that's not out there's not true. So if she asked me, I'd answer, but it's presumptuous what she said.
Okay, well, thank you for the input, I suppose. That brings us to the next item. Because I don't think there's any more questions. No. Okay, that brings us to item 16, which I'm just going to read out because I think it might be the best way to do it. So when we report out from an in-camera meeting, which was last time, the reporting actually ends up on the agenda for this meeting. So these are the motions that were passed in the in-camera portion of the May 27th Board of Directors meeting, and I'll just read it out for our benefit. So it's that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors appoint the following individuals to the Bamfield APC for a 2-year term: John Mass, Kevin McCautry, James Willick, Glenn Ballman, Brian McKay, Tom Campbell, and Stella Wensta. And then the same motion, but for the Beaufort APC for a 2-year term: George Hack, Lisa Aylard, and Graham Tate. Another motion for the same process for the Long Beach APC for a 2-year term: Carol Sedgwick, Julie Edwards, Scott McDonald, Terry Graff, and Joe Maybach. And then for the Sprout Lake APC for a 2-year term: Roberta Jensen, Walter Conkin, Joanne Bessler, and Mark Molander. Well, I wonder if he's related to Ron. Next up is the Beaver Creek APC for a 2-year term: Christy Arsenault and Brad Jaskin. And then finally, for the Cherry Creek APC for a 2-year term: Lynn Krupek, Dennis Francoeur, Lars Banky, Diana Banky, and Nadine White. So those were passed, and that's our reporting out. Do we have a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you, Dr. Toth, seconded by Director Sparrow. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you all so much. See you on the 24th.